Good evening and welcome. It's now 6 o'clock. I'm handing over to Zandile. Zandile, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lathan. Thank you, everybody, and hello and welcome to our webinar today. So my name is Zandile Kolisi, and I am a member of the National Executive Committee of Summer Students, and this is our second installment of our internship series of webinars. So today we will be having a battle of the tertiary hospitals, and we are so excited that you are here with us. The theme today is a battle of the tertiary hospitals. It's not really a battle because we believe that each province and each facility has something unique that it has to offer. Instead, this webinar is actually an opportunity for you to find out more about whatever tertiary hospital that you had in mind from any of these provinces. This webinar is also an opportunity for you to find out a little bit more about other tertiary level hospitals if you are somebody that's looking to be in that setting next year. So we are so excited to have you here, and we have a great lineup of speakers ranging from current interns to junior medical officers, all of them eager to share with us the experience and what it means to be doing internship at the facility that they're talking about. So I'm going to be facilitating the session. In attendance, I also have some of my colleagues. I have Ms. Pearl Makato and I have Mr. Antapo Lebelo, both of whom will be helping out a little bit with the Q&A sessions. So so we just want to welcome you, and we are so excited that you have decided to take time and to be with us today. We were supposed to have our chair come and give us some opening remarks, but unfortunately he's currently having some real technical issues, which is not a problem because we've already welcomed you and we are so excited to have you here. So without any further ado or anything like that, I think we should just get started. But before we do that, I just want to explain the structure for today's session. So today's session is divided into three. So the first section or part will be the Cape hospitals, followed by Gauteng province hospitals. Thereafter will be the Western Cape hospitals. And at the end of each province's presentations, there will be a Q&A session with two exceptions. The first one being that in the Eastern Cape, we'll be having a Q&A directly of Frere Hospital because Dr. Davis unfortunately has another commitment that she has to attend to. Then also for Gauteng province is split into two, whereby we'll be having a Q&A session directly after the Johanesburg hospitals. So that is your Barra and Charlotte Maxeke. And then another Q&A session after Steve Biko and George Mkhari, which are further up north in the Pretoria area. So that is the structure, and we are looking forward to you engaging with us and asking questions. Please do put your questions on the chat, on the Q&A, and we're so excited to have you and to hear from our speakers. So we'll start with the Eastern Cape hospitals, and we have Dr. Davis. Some of you may remember her from the last time that we had a session. She's going to be talking about internship at Frere Hospital. Dr. Davis?
Hello, I hope you can hear me. Let me share my screen. So as mentioned, hello everyone. My name is Jess. I'm currently working in the Western Cape, but I did my internship in the Frere complex in East London in the Eastern Cape. So we'll be talking about the intern experience if you had to be placed in the Frere complex. So why it's called complex is because if you are placed here, you automatically will spend half your time at two separate hospitals in East London. So these are just some of the things we're going to touch on today. But East London is, I mean, obviously one of the three big cities in the Eastern Cape. This one being in between PE and Mthatha. And if you were to do your internship in East London, you would be working at both Frere and Cecilia Makiwane hospitals in East London. So these two hospitals are about a half an hour apart from each other, roughly speaking. Frere, which is here on the left-hand side, is in the city of East London. And then Cecilia Makiwane is in Dansane, which is about half an hour or so outside of East London. And the way that internship really works when you are placed here is that during your first year, you will spend about exactly 50% of your time between the two hospitals. Your second year will actually be spent more at Cecilia Makiwane than it will be at Frere, but that's also just because of the nature of the types of blocks that you do in second year. So as an intern in first year, all the blocks that you do as an intern are set across the country. But when it comes to doing your internship at Frere, for internal medicine, you will either spend the full 3 months at CMH or you'll spend your full 3 months at Frere. Similarly for surgery. So if, for example, you were placed at Frere for internal medicine, then you will spend surgery at CMH. But then for the obs and gynae block and the pediatric block, you will spend half of each block at each hospital. So that kind of rounds you off at the end of your first year to having spent the same amount of time at each of these two hospitals, just in different combinations at different times of the year. With your second year of internship, 6 months of that is spent between orthopedics, psychiatry, and what's the other one? Anesthesiology. And you spend 2 months in each of those 3 blocks. For anesthesiology, you can choose whether you want to do those 2 months at Frere or whether you want to do those 2 months at CMH. I chose CMH, so I spent my 2 months of anesthesiology at CMH. For orthopedics, you will spend your 2 months at Frere, but you will do 1 week at CMH. And then psychiatry, there is no psychiatry department at Frere, so you do your 2 months at CMH psychiatry. Now, family medicine is a bit different, and depending on where you're placed in the country, each hospital placement seems to approach family medicine a little bit differently. If you were to be placed at Frere or CMH, in the Frere complex, then your 6 months of family medicine are broken up into 2 months of district work, and there are 4 hospitals that you can essentially choose from for those 2 months of district work. Then you have 2 months in Ward 5, which is the family medicine outpatient department at CMH. You have a month in one of the local clinics, and then you have a month in casualty. And that casualty is either Frere casualty, CMH casualty, or Frontier casualty, which is in Queenstown in Komani. So that's essentially how the blocks sort of look if you had to do your internship in East London. Frere Hospital as a hospital is a tertiary hospital, and it does, for the most part, function like a tertiary hospital. There are some deficits and there's some things that the hospital lacks, but you have your standard disciplines like internal medicine, pediatrics, pediatric surgery, general surgery, urology, all those standard things. But when it comes to things like cardiology or pulmonology or those kinds of specialist medical related things, unfortunately, the hospital does lack, and it doesn't have specialists for those kinds of things. But it is a fairly big hospital, and CMH is a regional hospital, so it is technically a down referral facility from Frere. So you'll see that a lot of the doctors who work at Frere, for example, in the pediatric surgery department, they also work in the pediatric surgery department at CMH. And there's a lot of referring of patients between the two facilities because they are linked and they're supposed to actually work as a complex. So CMH as well, it has more basic services on offer as what a regional hospital would have. It still has your standard disciplines like internal medicine, surgery, that kind of thing. But it definitely doesn't have any specialist care. So there's no urology or cardiology or things like that, being a regional hospital that it is. So so that's a very broad overview of what those two hospitals are like and how much time you'll spend at them during your internship time. In terms of going over the kind of supervision you'll get and the skills, now, even though Frere is a tertiary hospital, If you had to compare it to hospitals like Tygerberg or Barra or Groote, Frere is very small in comparison. It's a small hospital. It is not nearly the same size, physically speaking, and as those other hospitals I just mentioned. So even though you would be doing your internship at a tertiary institution, it is a much smaller institution than those kinds of hospitals. And I see this personally as a pro because the hospital itself is also smaller, the amount of interns that get placed there is also obviously less than what you would have at Barra or Tygerberg. And one of the direct consequences of that is that you actually get quite personalized hands-on experience as an intern in this complex. By the end of your internship, people pretty much know who all the interns are in the particular intern group. Like, you're familiar with everyone more or less. Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule. Like, if you run, fly under the radar for your entire 2 years and kind of stick to yourself, then, fewer people are really going to get to know you. But in general, because it is a smaller group, a smaller cohort, a smaller hospital, you do tend to have a bit more of a personalized experience with your seniors. And what that translates into is that, if your seniors get to know you more because they aren't having to learn 50 people's names every few months, and they're only learning 7 people's names, for example, they are more inclined to give you opportunities like procedures and different skills and things like that. So I see it actually as a bit of a privilege to be in a smaller tertiary hospital like Frere. And in terms of supervision overall, it is fairly good in the Frere complex. Obviously, there are exceptions again to the rule, and there are some departments where supervision is lacking and where it could definitely be improved upon. But that is not unique to the Frere complex at all. Like, all my friends who are in different parts of the country for internship, for different combinations of rotations, would struggle with supervision at some point during internship. So I think having some of those gaps in some departments, that is pretty common across most hospitals. But for the most part, your supervision is adequate in East London, and your seniors are always willing to help, and they are there to help you. They're there to support you. There will be times where sometimes you might feel like you're being thrown a bit into the deep end, but most of the time there is someone you can ask for help. So I think that was never really a big problem for us as interns. And then in terms of skills that you can get, I mean, you will have an intern logbook when you start internship. And every time you go through a different block, you will obviously be keeping at the back of your mind, you have to keep in mind like the kinds of skills that are expected of you for that particular block. There were some blocks where we sometimes struggled to kind of complete that list of skills, Obs and Gynae being one of them. Obs and Gynae is a particular weak point for the Frere complex. It is a particular weak point. So if you are someone who is extremely passionate about Obs and Gynae, then Frere might not be a good option for you. We struggled a lot with getting exposure to all the different procedures that are required of interns, such as MVAs and EVACs and all that kind of thing. Like, we struggled as an intern group because we just weren't being given those opportunities. But then if you look at other disciplines like internal medicine, surgery, pediatrics, we didn't struggle to get our procedures in those blocks. So it really is dependent on the department. But internship in general is often what you make of it. So if you don't want to expose yourself to new skills or get the opportunity to try new skills and procedures, you can go through a whole internship and not do anything. It's very easy. That you are not a medical student anymore when you're an intern. So they are not going to run after you to make sure that you're completing your logbook, because it's not their responsibility. So the MOs and the consultants are not going to be checking up. The only ones who really do is actually Obs and Gynae when it comes to the Caesars. So they will check up on you and make sure that you're getting your Caesars done. But when it comes to pretty much everything else, they are not going to check up on you. So if you want to actually do the pleural tap or do an acidic tap or put in an ICD or whatever, you need to be proactive in asking your seniors to help you do that. And if you do ask, they will show you and they will let you do it. They're very accommodating and pretty, like, I've never really had someone say no, unless obviously it was a diabolical request in the first place. Yeah, so that was never really much of an issue. And in terms then, looking a bit more on what the workload can be like and call responsibilities. Now, from what I've heard from people who, and I'm sure later on I heard that someone on the call is from Borough, so I'm sure you will hear, enough of what it's like to work at Borough. But knowing what I know about people, like friends of mine who have done internship at Borough, and then also knowing what I know about friends who have done internship, for example, at the hospital I'm currently working at, which is Worcester, I would say that Frere is directly in between way too much work and too little work. Like Frere is a comfortable in the middle kind of hospital. Some of your blocks are very busy. Like surgery at Frere is quite busy. Internal medicine at Frere is also quite busy. But psychiatry, for example, is almost a holiday. Like you do nothing. You do close to nothing during psychiatry. So it depends on the rotation, and some rotations are much busier than others. But then, even in saying that, I'm sure some of the borough interns would laugh if they knew what we considered to be busy at Frere. So, to give you an idea, if you, for example, did internal medicine at Frere, an average call that you would do, you are alone on call with a medical officer. So it's just the two of you, so you and a medical officer. And any admission that comes into the internal medicine department that night is your responsibility with your medical officer. And if, for example, you have 30 people that you admit that night, which is not an uncommon number to admit in a night for Frere internal, all the ward work for those 30 is your responsibility as the intern. And you will stay post call to make sure that all that ward work gets done. But then, for example, if you've done Frere internal, it means automatically that your surgery block will be at CMH. And CMH surgery, an average intake is like 10 people a night, not as bad. Whereas, the rest of your peers who did internal at CMH, which is also only about 10 people a night maximum, they have to do surgery at Frere, and surgery at Frere can also be exceptionally busy. So it kind of balances out in that respect. CMH is a smaller hospital, it's a regional hospital, so it does not have as many admissions and patients as Frere, for example. So if you do one of your blocks at Frere, you do the other at CMH, and it kind of balances out in terms of the workload from one block to the next. So, for example, with pediatrics, you are almost guaranteed to get sleep on call. Like it's quite uncommon not to sleep on a pediatric call, whether you're at Frere or CMH. Psychiatry, if you actually land up having to sit on site, like be at the hospital during your call, that's unusual. Most people stay home, and it's uncommon to even be called in for a patient. So you really can stay home for your psychiatry calls. So it varies in terms of the workload, but it really is manageable. And one of the biggest things that you basically need to ensure as a new intern when you start internship is that you, with your intern group, you figure out a way to approach the workload. Because calls are one thing, and you will be alone on call most of the time, unless, for example, you're in surgery at Frere where there's two people on call. Otherwise, you're alone. And so during the day, that's a completely other ball game. And all the ward work falls to the interns, obviously. And so as an intern group, you need to figure out a good method to approach ward work. And that just comes with meeting your group and developing an approach. But I would say that in terms of this particular intern placement, it really isn't unmanageable at all. In terms of opportunities, so this was also something that we were asked to touch on. I don't know what anyone in the call, I don't know what your perceptions are of the Eastern Cape. I mean, I landed up in the Eastern Cape for internship because I wanted to get out of the Western Cape and I wanted to experience a healthcare system that was different to the Western Cape. I mean, I grew up in the Western Cape and trained in the Western Cape. So I really wanted to get out. But in saying that, I didn't want to go somewhere that I didn't have some form of support system. So one of my friends really wanted to go to Frere and wanted to go to the Eastern Cape. So I applied for it fairly blindly. I didn't know, I'd never been to East London before. I didn't even know where Frere was. I didn't even know it was a hospital until I arrived. And didn't even know that CMH existed at all, or that I had to be at CMH for half my time until I was in East London. But went on a blind faith. And I have to admit that it was a seriously amazing experience and I do not regret it and actually really, really enjoyed it. And I miss East London and Frere and CMH all the time. So what my point with all of this is that I'm not sure what your perceptions are of the Eastern Cape in terms of opportunities and what everyone in the call tonight, what your aspirations are from a career point of view. But I think, wherever you land up in the country, you have the potential in any space to make the most of it and to find opportunities where you are. By the end of internship, I was involved in 9 research projects at Frere. I found 2 mentors, one at CMH, one at Frere, who are still mentors to me to this day. One leadership project that I'm still working on in the town of Alice or Dekani, just outside of East London, about just under 2 hours outside of East London. And then actually in a I guess a weird roundabout way, also linked to Alice, landed up going overseas for something that was related to my time in Alice during my district rotation. So you really can find opportunities to grow in your skills and to grow in things that are not specifically related to your day-to-day ward work or work as an intern. And it doesn't matter where you are in the country, because if you look for it, you will find those opportunities. What's really nice about Frere, well, not Frere, specifically actually CMH, is that Project Flamingo is at CMH. So for those of you who are interested in surgery, Project Flamingo runs a mastectomy list every 6 weeks at CMH. So right at the beginning of my internship, I got involved in Project Flamingo and was cutting with them every 6 weeks for the full 2 years that I was in East London. So by the time I left internship at the end of last year, I had done 2 mastectomies from skin to skin with one of the surgeons from Frere. So you really can touch any form of opportunity that's available, and there were abundant opportunities in East London to grow in different spaces. So getting away from the clinical space and just looking at East London from a social point of view, life in slummies. To this day, I can't remember why East London is called slummies. It's our intern curator told us why when we arrived, and I can't remember what it is. It's an enduring term for East London that is shared amongst all of the residents and people from East London. I just can't really remember what it means. But when you arrive in East London for your internship, you will be added to a group that is called slummies. And that group contains all of the young doctors in the whole area. So from people that work at CMH, people that work at Frere, and it actually stretches pretty much to all the people working most of the people working in the clinics nearby. So it's really nice because it's interns, it's comserves, it's MOs. Some of the consultants are even on the group as well. And the group is used to basically be able to communicate with each other during the day, like if you're looking for someone on call or you're looking for a particular doctor or whatever it is. But it's also used to share social opportunities in the town of East London. So if, for example, there's a wine night being hosted somewhere, or the theatre in town is hosting a show, people post things like that in the group as well. So it's a really nice kind of community that has been created there in East London. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, you have intern curators. So there's one curator for Frere and there's a curator for CMH. And the job of these curators is to look after you as interns. So if you're having issues, challenges, queries, concerns, if you're panicking about something, the curators are there to support you. And they are hands-on and they are really approachable and really great people. And then you also get mentors. So one of the initiatives of the social com that exists for the interns in East London is that second year interns function as, if they sign up to be, they will function as a mentor for the first year interns, which is nice because you can ask them for advice. They can give you pointers for the different blocks that you have. And they just kind of function as someone who can, for social things in the town, but also then obviously hospital related things, they can point out things that they've learned and give you good advice as you navigate through internship. And then I just wanted to also mention there is a DQ available. So if you need to make use of the DQs when you come to East London, then there is one. Not for CMH. The DQ is specifically in East London, but there is a shuttle that will take you to CMH every day if you don't have a car. And then purely from a social point of view, the town of East London has a lot going on. Like there's a lot of restaurants, there's a lot of hiking trails, and it's a very sporty town, which caught me by surprise when I got there. There's always people that are running, that are cycling, that are walking in the streets. There's running clubs, cycling clubs, hiking clubs. There's all sorts of things. There is a shopping center in East London called Hemingway's, and there's a casino there. There's a movie theater. There's all sorts of things that you can do. So you'll never be bored in East London. Like I was never bored over the 2 years that I was there. But you do have to look for things if you want to find something to do. But there's paddle and there's tennis and there's, anything that you could possibly think of, you will find it in East London. So yeah, in summary, I think, internship in the Eastern Cape is a challenging one in comparison. For example, if you had to do internship in the Western Cape, the Eastern Cape has got a lot of challenges. It is our poorest healthcare system in the country, as far as I'm aware. And that does translate into a lot of difficulties as a healthcare worker in a system that is broken. But I would never, ever substitute my experience that I had in the Eastern Cape for anything. I'm so grateful for it every single day. And the people that I met there, the connections, the opportunities, the experiences that I had, I am so grateful every single day for those experiences. So if there's one thing I will say is that if you don't come from the Eastern Cape and you don't have a support network in the Eastern Cape, if you apply to the Eastern Cape, try and apply with a friend. And that actually goes for any province. If you are applying to move out of the province that you live in or to go to a province you've never been to before, I think internship as an experience, regardless of where you are, you do need to have a support system. Whether it's friends or family, you do need to have someone nearby that you can lean on when times get tough. Because again, regardless where you are for internship, there will be times that will be tough, and you do need to have someone that can support you while you experience that. So I think that is pretty much it from me. I don't know if there are questions, but I did see some things popping up in the chat, but I'll have to look.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. There was a question. Thank you so much for that. It was very informative. So one of the question is, okay, so they're just asking you, can you please repeat the first part you mentioned about rotation and the amount of time you spend and at which facilities?
Sure. So in first year, you have your set rotations of surgery, internal medicine, pediatrics, and obs and gynae. So that's the same, it doesn't matter where you are. For the Frere complex, you will spend for pediatrics, because that's 3 months, for each of those blocks. So for pediatrics and obs and gynae, you will spend half of your 3 months of pediatrics at Frere and the other half at CMH. And the same thing for obs and gynae. Half of your 3 months will be at Frere, the other half will be at CMH. When it comes to internal medicine and surgery, you will spend the full 3 months at one of the two hospitals. So if you are assigned to CMH for surgery, then you will be assigned to Frere for internal medicine. And you will spend your full 3 months at that particular hospital. You won't switch over halfway through. In second year, there are 3 2-month blocks. So anesthesiology, orthopedics, and psychiatry. Each of those 3 blocks are 2 months long. There is no psychiatry department of Frere, so you spend your full 2 months at CMH. For orthopedics, you spend your full 2 months at Frere, and then for anesthesiology, you can choose. You can choose to spend your full 2 months at Frere, or you can choose to spend your full 2 months at CMH. But whichever one you choose, you will then be there for the full 2 months at that relevant hospital. And then the last 6 months is family medicine in second year. And the way the family medicine works in the Frere complex is that 2 of your 6 months of family medicine is spent at Ward 5, which is an outpatient department for family medicine at CMH. And then you have 2 months in the district. So there are 4 hospitals you can choose from to go for your 2 months of district. One of them is Biko Hospital, which is quite close to East London. It's only about, I think, 20 to 30 minutes, maybe a bit more. It's under an hour away from East London. It's Biko. Then you've got Butterworth, which is just under 2 hours away from East London. You have Frontier Hospital, which is in Queenstown, or Kumani, which is around 2 hours away. and then Alice or Dikeni, which is Victoria Hospital, which is just under 2 hours away. So you spend 2 months at one of those 4 hospitals, and Biko Hospital is the only one where you would still be able to live in East London for those 2 months and drive to the hospital if you wanted to. The other three, you will have to live in that town for the 2 months. And then you have 1 month in one of the local clinics, and your last month of family medicine would then be in casualty. And that is either Frere casualty, or it is CMH casualty, or it is Frontier casualty in Queenstown. I think that was, I don't know if there was another part to that question, but that, yeah, those are the blocks.
Okay, yeah, and I think you answered the question. With regards to the DQs, just you briefly touched on them. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about the quality of the DQs? Would you recommend that somebody stay in the DQ if that's something that they would like? Yeah, some information about the DQs.
Sure. So the DQ location changed last year. There was an issue with the DQs, not because of the specific facilities, but because of rent, something to that effect. So I know that the location has changed. So I actually don't know where the current DQs are. I don't know what the quality is like. I didn't hear many complaints, to be honest. There weren't many complaints that popped up when I was in internship. People like the DQs, the original location, was quite close to Frere, so and there was always a shuttle. So a lot of people who stayed in the DQs didn't have cars, but it wasn't an issue because there was a shuttle that would take them to and from work every day, whether that was at Frere or CMH, or they just got lifts with friends. But I don't recall hearing a lot of complaints. But I think the only way to find out updated information about the DQs would be to try and find an intern that's currently there, because I actually don't know where they are now. Yeah.
Okay, and from when you were there, when you would change facilities and you were staying at a DQ, did they provide you with a place to stay, or did you have to look for your own accommodation?
For district. So yeah, so they do provide you with the option to stay in accommodation. So I spent my 2 months at Alice, at Victoria Hospital in Alice, and there is a DQ on the premises. Butterworth has the same thing, so does Queenstown, so does Biko. So all four of the district hospitals that you could potentially go to do have DQ facilities. Some of them are better than others. So people were complaining a lot about the Biko DQs, that they were a bit problematic, but it wasn't too much of an issue because most people who went to Biko did not sleep in the DQs. They just drove in every day, because it was close enough for them to stay home. But for the other three locations, you really can't do that. It's just too far away. And the DQ that I was in for Alice, like, it was fine. It was really clean. It had all what you basically needed in terms of like a little kitchen. It's private. You got your own room with your own bathroom. And to the best of my knowledge, all of the hospitals are like that. So you get your own room, you get your own bathroom when you go to any of the three hospitals. Some people, sometimes, even though they are offered that free accommodation, which you don't have to pay for the 2 months that you're there, some interns sometimes choose to find their own accommodation. So some of my friends, when they went to Butterworth, I'm not 100% sure what their reasoning was, but they decided before even getting to Butterworth that they wanted to rent an Airbnb. So then like 3 of them went in and rented an Airbnb for the 2 months. Again, it's not necessary. The DQs are perfectly fine and perfectly acceptable for you to stay in them, for any of the hospitals that you go to. And you don't need DQ facilities in any other context. So it's only if you're in district that you would need DQs. And then obviously if you stay in the DQs attached to Frere, then yeah, those are the other ones. Yeah.
Okay, and then I know that you have to rush somewhere. Just 2 quick questions that we have. One, is a person allowed to stay with their kids in the DQ? And a second one is there a rural allowance?
So I was shocked by this, but East London is considered a metropolitan. So no, there is no rural allowance for East London. It's a city. Coming from Cape Town, that was a shock for me because it really doesn't feel like a city at all. It's quite small. in comparison, but no. So the only place for interns that has rural allowance in the Eastern Cape is Mthatha. So that's the only placement where you would get a rural allowance is if you went to Mthatha. Otherwise, if you went to PE and you worked at Livingstone or you were in East London and worked at Frere, you don't get a rural allowance. With regards to kids, I don't know. I know that the DQs at the district hospitals, you can have children there because some of the medical officers had their whole family, like their spouse and their children, with them in the DQs. But I mean, keeping in mind it's a small room. It's one room. So you are going to be living in like one room with multiple people. But at the Frere one, I actually don't know. But I think if you had a situation where you have a young child and you need to bring the child with you, if you reach out to the intern curator ahead of the time, they are very understanding people. I can't imagine that they would have a problem with it. But I'm not aware of someone having that kind of setup in the last 2 years at least. So I don't know what their policy is.
Okay, all right. No, thank you so much, Dr. Davis. We really enjoyed your presentation, and we hope to hear from you soon from, regarding other topics and other talks that some students will have. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Now we're going to be moving on to Livingstone. For Livingstone, we have Dr. Njonga. Dr. Njonga. Oh, your sound is not so great. Can you try?
My speaker. All right. How's
Yeah.
that?
There. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
I am on my phone, so I'm going to try and share my screen. Here. Okay. Let us share. All right. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes, we can, but there's just this big thingy on it. But we can see it.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, sorry, Zandile, I cannot hear you.
We can hear you. Can you hear us? Okay. Dr. Njonga, can you hear us? Okay, so I think Dr. Njonga is having some technical difficulties. Okay, so Dr. Njonga is having some technical difficulties. While we're trying to sort those out, we can move on to Nelson Mandela Academic Hospital, where Dr. Fakude is going to be presenting to us. Dr. Fakude?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Start my video. Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Lovely. So unfortunately, I'm one of the people who weren't aware that we needed to have a PowerPoint presentation. So it's just going to be a talk. However, I did write down notes, so you'll see that I'll be referring to something that I wrote on the side so that I don't leave out any of the things that I deemed are important. So, greetings to everyone. I am Mzwandile Fagute from Emandeni in KZN. I studied in Stellenbosch. I'm currently doing my second year at Mandela Academic Hospital. Again, thank you for the opportunity to share my insights about the hospital. So, Nelson Mandela is a rural hospital, a rural tertiary hospital located in Eastern Cape with close affiliations to the Walter Sisulu University. And the students rotate within the hospital, as well as the students rotate within the hospital. And there are some also, it's also a complex in a way, because there are some hospitals that are linked, that you rotate through within your internship. So which includes Mthatha Regional Hospital, as well as Bedford Orthopedic Hospital, as well as some district hospitals that you rotate through family medicine. So how it's structured, it's similar the same to East London, where you do your internal medicine, surgery, obs and gynae, as well as pediatrics. And then the following year, it's 2 months of anesthesiology, which is done at Mandela, and then ortho, which is done at Bedford. It's just a 15-minute drive from Nelson Mandela. Then you also get a psychiatric hospital. We do have a mental unit within the hospital, so you don't have to travel very far during your psych rotations. And then we also have a FemMed. During your FemMed is usually 6 months, but it's divided into 3 months and 3 months. So 3 months you spend at a district hospital, which includes your St. Patrick's in Bizana, St. Barnabas in Libote, which is close by, and then St. Elizabeth, which is in Lusikisiki. And then you rotate for 3 months in Mthatha. So depending on how you guys allocate yourself, you spend 3 months in Mthatha. It can be the first 3 months, and then the second 3 months you rotate at a district, or you start at a district, then you go to Mthatha for the second 3 months. So I'm currently completing my orthopedic rotation. So as of tomorrow, the day after tomorrow rather, the 1st of July, we'll be moving to FemMed. So funny enough, I only discovered the hospital in final year when I was putting in my ICSP. I knew about a place called Mthatha, but I've never been here, and I knew not. I have friends from here. They used to tell me about the hospital, and they would always advise not to come here and all of that, which is, you learn a lot. You make your internship the way you want to make it and how you want to structure your internship. As Jess mentioned in the previous talk, if you want to fly under the radar, you will go unnoticed and you won't make any relationships of some sort. So going to the points that I've been given, so the first point was clinical exposure. So you do get a lot of clinical exposure as an intern, because one, during the day, you do get students. Once you get students during the day, they also rotate throughout the blocks, and then ward rounds happen throughout. And thereafter, you allocated ward work, and sometimes the students help you, but usually they have a break around 12 to 1, somewhere there. Then they leave, then you're left alone, and then they come back for call. And if you're on call, they call usually starts at 8, and then it ends around 9, pushing it towards 11 latest. So you do get a lot of clinical exposure within the hospital. If you want to do procedures, you do get a lot of opportunities to do procedures. It also depends on you and how your expectation or what you want from that rotation that you're currently rotating in. So, however, it's important that to note that there is a lot of shortages. Like, for example, a short line. Sometimes some departments don't have short lines, and some people who trained in Gauteng or Western Cape, they usually they usually put in short lines for patients, but sometimes it doesn't work that way. And then some other also clinical equipment that's not there that you would deem necessary, but sometimes you go and you find means to make it work without those clinical equipment. And then in terms of supervision, you do get a lot of supervision during clinical time as well as during call. How so? So during ward rounds, usually it's you, students, an MO, a reg, as well as a consultant. So with how hospitals work, there is also the ward rounds continue, and then if you're unsure about something, you write it down. There are set clinical duties assigned to an intern, and then the intern also assign duties to students. But sometimes, as I mentioned, students have class and all that work rests upon you. But it doesn't necessarily mean you cannot call a friend or have someone to help you out. So there is always supervision during the day, and during call, you also have supervision because there's always seniors that are on call. It can be a first on call or a second on call that's there, that's with you during a call, and then from there you are expected to perform duties within a call. So like seeing patients, you're the first person to see patients. So you see patients, you clock patients, you derive an assessment, and then you drop a plan. And then you go and discuss with a senior and tell them this is a patient XYZ, how you usually present in ward rounds, and then you say your plan. Sometimes they'll agree with your plan, sometimes they don't agree with your plan, but they'll usually inform you on a better route towards your plan. But the only problem is that I noted with us, so we were part of the cohort that had a reduced number of interns. So the year before us, they had 87 to 90 of interns for the whole hospital. And then during our year, we were 40, we were 32 in Jan. And then throughout the year, some people came in, like the asynchronous people came in. And then by June, we were like 40, but it's still half of what they had. So we had to find a way to work out means to work quicker with, at some point, you'll find that you're pushing work instead of learning. But also during academic ward rounds, you do learn. And if there's something that you don't understand, you can always refer with someone, or if you feel like you're pressured in certain ways, you can always ask your group members, because remember, in internship, you split into groups that rotate in different departments. So I've mentioned that there is a morning meeting. So there is morning meetings for all departments that start at 7:30. Some departments start at 8. And then you see patients, you present your patients that you've seen on your call, and that's where you learn again. They ask you questions and you answer to the best of your ability. If you don't know, you do say you don't know, and then you read up on it. However, some departments do follow up on what you say. You will go and read. And then some departments differ because there's some different departmental heads and different people that rotate in those departments. So also it works on your attitude you bring towards that department. Sometimes you might like, I'm not a surgeon, so I'll have the negative effect towards, you'll have a negative POV of surgery because of something that happened in med school. Then you go with that prejudice that you don't like surgery, which will affect your entire rotation. So you just have to keep a clean, open mind and always start from zero with all the disciplines. You might never know which discipline you will enjoy. And then medical school and internship is completely two different ball games. There's two different expectations there are totally different expectations that is expected from you from medical school as well as internship. So moving towards the hospital culture, and the working environment. So with every hospital, there is hospital hierarchy, the consultant, the registrars, the MO, the interns, students, nursing staff, and all of that. So some departments do, not that they make you remember that you are the bottom of the food chain, but some people within the hospital, they make you feel like you're an intern. At the end of the day, you're an intern and you are at the bottom of the food chain, but that shouldn't deter you from actually performing your duties to your best of your abilities. And you can always report someone if they, for example, bully you or they make you feel some type of way. We have a good support system in terms of the work environment. You have your close intern coordinators for every rotation, and then from there you have your intern creators. You also have group leaders within your small groups, and then you have a group leader for the big group of the intern group of that year. So you can always report something that you don't feel it's right that's happening towards you, or there's something that's happening that you don't like, irrespective, or it's happening to someone else. You can always report that type of conduct. And then in terms of accommodation, we have like 5 different accommodations. So Umtata is probably far has the best, the ones that I've heard from the people that I know, the accommodation. We pay 900 Rand for DQ. But let me use myself for an example. I pay 900 Rand for a 1-bedroom bachelor pad with 24-hour security outside. But that's at a different. So what happened is there's DQ. Let me take it from the top. There's DQ that's within the hospital. And that DQ, not a lot of people stay there because it's poorly maintained. The maintenance people take time to revamp or renovate certain things. And then they would take some time, as I say, and then from there, some maintenance issues will fall upon you as an intern to do. Like, for example, painting walls, fixing doors, fixing leaking taps. But sometimes if the geyser is broken, they do come and fix it from people that I've heard that stayed there. However, the hospital have different landlords that they sublet their units to interns, and then the hospital pays those landlords, and then we just contribute 900 Rand for those accommodations. So we have Kopelek. Kopelek is like an estate in a way, but it's a rural estate. It's gated, has a single, similar to how you know an estate, a single entrance. They have flats, some have bachelor pads, some have 1-bedroom apartments. And then you also have some in town. I've never been to the ones in town. And then in Southridge, where I stay, it's a bit of a distance from hospital, so you need to have a car. But the landlord of where I stay has a shuttle, so it's not an immediate pressure for you to buy a car. But however, you have to compensate the landlord. He usually charges like 650 to 700 for the whole month, and then he transports you from to and fro every day. However, when you're on call, though, it's your responsibility to move around. There is Bolt, but it's a bit sketchy in a way, but it's functional. You might request someone and someone says on the Bolt app it's a Taz, and then it turns out it's an Uno that's coming. It's a totally different car with a different number plate, but it's the same person. It's the norm of the town. But you always have to take precautionary measures, of course. And then in terms of, within the DQ, there is a gym. It's fairly affordable. It's like 200 Rand, but it's not the best. There is equipment. You can make use of the equipment. And within the town, there's another gym. It's quite at the mall called Beating Gaps. It's quite a distance from the hospital. So if you stay at Southridge, it's also a distance because going to Beating Gaps, you pass the hospital. So it's added more distance. And then there's another one in town. I don't know the name. And then, yeah, that's it in terms of accommodation. In terms of, I saw someone ask, you can live with your children. Yes, you can live with your children, but also you have to keep in mind that the space is small. You can also get a 2-bedroom apartment, but also the 2-bedroom apartments is not for interns. That's what the housing manager usually says. He says the 2-bedroom apartments are not usually for interns, but you can work around. There are ways that you can work around if you speak to someone and provide certain proof that you actually have a spouse and you have children that you're going to live with, so you need a bigger accommodation. And then those people usually pay around about 1,300 Rand compared to us who pay 900 Rand for a bachelor or a 1-bedroom apartment. So the difference is the bachelor is just your TV, your bed, your kitchen in one space. And then a 1-bedroom, your TV, like where I'm seated now, I'm seated in my lounge, and then what's in front of me is my kitchen, and then to the door on my right, it's my bedroom with an ensuite. So that's it. That's my whole, and it's quite spacious because I have a table, I have a couch. It's quite a very spacious place for one person. And then in terms of social life and support, similar to university, you just have to find your people that you gel with and move with them. Unfortunately, we don't have life in the summies here, but if you find your people and you create activities with them, you can actually make fun, or you can make use of your time as an intern. So there are some places that I have been to, like a PSJ, there's home visits, as well as in Coffee Bay, there's a hole in the wall. There's also the dam, some activities are there. And then you also have the airport. But however, the only problem with the airport is that it flies to Joburg and the prices are very steep sometimes. So if you book very late, the prices can get very steep, ranging from your 4,500 to 5,000 Rand for a single flight. However, you can also still drive to East London and catch a flight to Joburg, Cape Town, or Durban, wherever you want to go. And then it works out cheaper that way. So then in town, there are a few restaurants. Your common one, your Spur, your Panadol teas, your Ocean Baskets, and all of that. And then there's some restaurants that are specifically for the town. It's like Ivory Reserve and Ivory. There's a one in town, and there's another one within the suburbs of Umtata. It's like a restaurant. It's a very nice one where most people usually go. And then we also have a news cafe, which is for the nightlife. And then we do have a lot of sporting activities. A lot of people here run. There's a lot of running clubs within this town. And then cycling, I also cycle. I'm part of the cycling club within Tata. So we usually cycle to PSJ, and then we also cycle around. And then sometimes I cycle on my own. But however, it's usually advised that you cycle with the group instead of cycling alone, because it's quite dangerous. People here have their own way of driving, which is you get accustomed to when you live here, but it's going to frustrate you when you're starting to live here. But as you live in this town, you would realize, oh, people here drive like this. And then in terms of research, there is research available. However, it depends on different, it's not popularly known, like it's not out there that, oh, there's XYZ research happening there, then you get involved with that. However, if you know people, if you are a person who wants to be memorable in a good way and who wants to leave a mark where they are, and you ask the right questions and ask the people that you are interested, like things that you are interested, you ask about them within the people, they're more than willing to share information. And it's easier to form a friendly relationship with the consultant here because the town is not that big, and there is a lot of subspecialties within the hospitals. And also the only thing is the problem with that is that there's over familiarity, and also people from here are from towns close by, but however, it's very easy for you to get into things, or if you ask the relevant people, how you find that is through you interacting with people within the hospital environment. So it's in terms of leadership, also it's the same as research. It's not out there. The only leadership structures that I know is that you get to be a group leader of the interns in Jan, and then further there you subdivide into subgroups, and thereafter there's your Samatu, and there's also Sama as well that you can involve, which is prominent. And then they have your talks, like the consultants, they give talks, and that when they engage in terms of leadership. And then in terms of key strengths and challenges, the key strength is that as much as we were few, it was depressing at first because my first rotation was internal, and the internal here can be very demanding, especially December, Jan. It can be very demanding in terms of the patient dynamics and all of that. And then, but that helps you to adapt very quickly and to also know what's expected of you and to know how to work more efficiently, because with internship, your learning process is resting upon you. How you learn and how you make use of your internship is solely based on you, and no one is going to hold you by your hand, and no one is going to be there and to remind you that you have to do X, Y, Z. So everything is your responsibility, because they treat you like an adult now. So at the end of the day, you're the one who always has to put their best foot forward, and even when it doesn't feel worthy, you still have to still try and make sure that your support structure is solid. So with that, it's that you get to be not independent per se, because you still have people that are there, but you can execute a plan on your own, but you always have to keep at the back of your head that it's someone's life and it's someone's family that you are treating. It's not just a patient. So you have to be conscious of the decision that you make. Even though the decision that you make is still supervised, you always have to refer with someone before you can execute that plan. And then sometimes it's easier to take a blame as an intern because you are at the bottom of the food chain and you cannot really substantiate your argument clinically in terms of why you did X, Y, Z. And sometimes it can get a lot a lot of seniors give you too many orders, and then if you don't have a place to write them down and so that you track them down as to, okay, during ward round, this patient needed X, Y, Z. It's easier for you to lose track of everything, and then now you become an unreliable intern, which is something that you do not want to be in your internship, that unreliable intern, an intern that's not on top. Not that you have to be on top of everything, but you need to swim. Irrespective of the wave, you still need to be able to swim. And then I think if I've missed anything, or if someone wants to know about, you can ask.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Fakude. I think so you've covered most of the points, and it was really interesting and informative to find out what's actually like, what the scenery and what the setup is like in Umtata, because it's not, I would say it's not really one of the common placements. So thank you so much for that. We will just swiftly move on to Livingstone because of time, and then we will just gather any questions that come up a little bit later. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Fakude. While Dr. Jonga is setting up, we just want to remind everyone to please keep time, and also the attendees to also put in any questions that they have on our chat, on the Q&A, so that we can ask the speakers. We've also shared Dr. Jonga's presentation on the group, on the final years group. So you can also follow there if she's experiencing any further technical difficulties. Then she'll just talk without sharing the screen.
All right. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm going to try and share my screen quickly. All right. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. Okay, so I am Gwatita Jonga. I was born and bred in the Eastern Cape, in the small town of Queenstown. And I went to school at Stellenbosch University, and Port Elizabeth Complex was my first option. I wanted to live relatively close to home, but also, as Jess had mentioned earlier, I knew I would have support system here. My aunt is here, my cousins are here. So I think 2 of my aunts are actually here. And that's why I chose Port Elizabeth. So in PE, there are 3 hospitals within which medical interns can be found. Livingstone, PE Provincial, and also Doranginza, as well as Utenaig, which was added newly. It was in 2021, I think. So you will have no doubts about finding your feet wherever you end up being placed. But as we are no strangers of how difficult making this decision can be, we would like to do what we can to allow you to make an informed decision. So this document was created in 2020. I realized that I sent the 2021 because I edited the one for 2026, which I will send at the end of the presentation to Zandile. In PE, so first and foremost, let's start with Livingstone. So in your first year, you will rotate through internal medicine and general surgery at Livingstone. In terms of internal medicine, you will have, so we were a group of, so it takes about 90 interns. The previous year, they had 86, and I think our group was 80 interns. So we are quite a big bunch. And in terms of internal medicine, it is split. So it's split either 1/3, 2/3 between Dora and Livingstone in terms of where you are placed. So if it's a group of people from internal who are supposed to be doing internal medicine now, you can choose. So for example, if you choose Livingstone, then you'll start the first month in Livingstone, and then you will rotate. The second month you'll go to Doranginza internal medicine, and then you'll come back to Livingstone. And then same applies if you choose the other way around. There were some exceptions with people who wanted to stay where they were, and they were allowed to do so. I think about 1 or 2 people. Maybe they had their personal reasons. I'm unsure about that. And then with general surgery, you will do general surgery at Livingstone. Your whole 3 months will be at Livingstone, where you will rotate through SOC, which is where the surgery on call team will be. And then you'll rotate in the wards as well. And in terms of the lifting between the 2 disciplines that I have just mentioned, general surgery has a lot of lifting. It's a lot of workload, because we should also remember that Port Elizabeth is a hotspot for hijacking, crime, people shooting each other. So it gets quite intense, especially during the festive season. Same as internal. During the festive season, it will get quite intense, and you just have to buckle up, unfortunately. You really, really just have to buckle up. And then moving on to the other rotations, you will do pediatrics and obstetrics and gynecology in Doranginza. In terms of pediatrics, there is, sorry, I didn't mention that in the previous two rotations, there's actually a whole lot of supervision. We should remember that it's a tertiary hospital. People are specializing. You've got registrars, you've got MOs, and also there are students now from Nelson Mandela who started coming in when they were in their 5th year, which I think I was in first year internship at that time, who will help out, but it's kind of the same as Dr. Faku just said, that they will help out until a certain time in the day and then they will leave, except those students that are now on call, your final year students for say, or your 5th year medical students who are on call, who'll be with you until like 10. And then in terms of obstetrics and gynecology and pediatrics, supervision, they are very hands-on in pediatrics. You will have 6 weeks in your rotation, your 3-month rotation of pediatrics. You'll have 6 weeks of neonates, and then you'll have 6 weeks of pediatrics, where you will rotate in the two. You can choose which one you want to start with, and then you will then switch. Otherwise, in terms of there being guidance, the consultants are there, the registrars are there, you can ask anytime, but they do then give you responsibility where you can actually now, you're not being supervised by anyone after the first week of neonates, where you are the doctor that is actually going to catch the baby in theater. And you, if you have to start a recess, you start a recess, but then you call your senior. They will let you know over the phone if they're busy with something else and tell you how to go. You put them on speaker, but most of the time they do come through. They really do. In obs and gynae, one constraint that I found in obs and gynae was actually getting to cut. So if you are really, really passionate about obs and gynae, one thing you could do is speak to the HOD, Prof. Mabenge. He's super nice, and he's actually quite interested in, he's interested in everyone, but especially interested in the people who are actually interested in obs and gynae. To just give you more of a hands-on approach to obs and gynae. Obviously, it's a tertiary hospital. You won't get to do the big procedures, but you will be there to assist, and you will be there to actually just partake in the surgery. So that is first year as an intern. And then second year, you have anesthesiology, you have orthopedics, psychiatry in the first half, and then you will have your family medicine rotation. So your group will be split in half, where one half of the group will start with the small rotations, and then the other half will start with family medicine. In terms of anesthesiology, you will be doing anesthesiology in the 3 main hospitals that are covering the PE complex. That being said, that's Livingstone, Doranginza, and also PE Provincial. So in terms of anesthesiology, you will have 1 week at PE Provincial, and then you will then have 3 weeks at Doranginza, and then you will have a full month at Livingstone Hospital. And in terms of that, in terms of the workload, and it's anesthesiology, there's a reason why they call it the speciality you choose if you want work and life balance. And in terms of the supervision, they are on top of it. You get supervised a lot. And also, when you want to try procedures, they let you try them, they assist you through them. So it's actually quite a cool rotation to be in. I particularly enjoyed it a lot. And in terms of when you are at DORA, you will be on for the night. If you're on call, you get pre-call, where you don't come in for the morning, and you will start your call at 4, and then you'll be on for 8 hours. And then after that, seniors usually let you sleep until the morning. And then at Livingstone, you'll get your pre-call. And then when you start your call, it's work until probably the general surgeon gets tired around 2, 3 a.m. And then at P Provincial, we don't do any calls at P Provincial. That's where all the specialities are in terms of cardiothoracics, urology, ENT, ophthalmology, cardiology, neurology, hematology, and also now newly added plastic surgery. So it's just a normal day, an 8 to 4, but you are just placed there for the week. So you actually get to see some pretty cool procedures that the surgeons are doing, but you're going to be on the anesthesiology side. In terms of orthopedics, heavy workload. I think also because of the state that PE is in, the gunshots, the stabs, you get to that trauma, accidents or bones that are broken due to trauma aren't just PVAs or MVAs, it's also stabs, gunshots. So the trauma trumps your adult population where you get your neck of femurs or an adult falling. So in terms of that, it is a massive workload. Most of the seniors are in theatre. We communicate with them via WhatsApp. So one thing I will say about this rotation, which I'm currently in, I am left with the rest of this week to finish the rotation. In terms of this rotation, you are actually managing the patient medically. You are actually managing the patient, and I'm so glad that it came in my second year, having found my footing through internal medicine, particularly, where you actually know how to manage a patient. But if you do run into some deep waters, you can obviously call people. And also I refer back to my internal medicine seniors who are actually willing to help, willing to review. If you send a vula, they will come and review the patient for you and so forth. And then in terms of psychiatry now, as this is an old PowerPoint, psychiatry now is actually split across Elizabeth Donkin, Utenig, and also Doranginza. So for me, I'm going to speak for myself. I was at Doranginza, where for 1 month I was in the 72-hour unit, and then for 1 month you are in the long-term unit, which is the B block at Doranginza. This was very enjoyable also. Little workload though, less workload than any of the rotations. But you have to be mentally fit for psychiatry, I should say. And then we have family medicine for the rest of the 6 months. And in terms of family medicine, you rotate through what we call the PE axis and the UPH axis. So UPH being Utenig. So for 3 months, you are going to be in Utenig. So Utenig from Port Elizabeth is a 20 to 30-minute drive. So I usually drove there and back. But at some point, it just became too difficult for me after a month. But luckily, I have an aunt who lives in Utenig. So I would then sleep by her house for the week and then come back to PE on the weekend and so forth. So at Utenig, you are then split into, so the 12 weeks is then split, I think, into 3 weeks each, where you rotate through casualty, adult health, which is a smaller like internal medicine, but just not like Livingstone, and then trauma, which is like your surgery, because they also do small procedures there, and then maternal health, which is obs and gynae, and then also child health, which is pediatrics. But then everything is done at a secondary hospital level. And then anything that needs tertiary care is then referred to Livingstone or Doranginza, depending on where you are in Uitenhage. Yes, and then the calls there can get pretty hectic in terms of the people who come in, especially during a peak festive season. And I was unlucky enough to be there during peak festive season in December. Yeah, that's it in terms of Uitenhage. Otherwise, with the supervision there, they are hands-on. You actually don't even sign the blood form yourself. The senior lets you know what to do in terms of ward work when it comes to taking blood from a patient, and the senior has to approve. I think that also comes with cost constraints that we have in our Eastern Cape hospitals. But one thing about Uitenhage, it's a secondary hospital. You get to know the people quickly. You get to form bonds even with the staff, the nursing staff, the seniors. So it's actually quite a healthy environment to work in. And then when you come to the PE axis, you will have 1 month that you spend in casualty. And then that is split now between your Livingstone casualty, your Dora casualty, and yes, it's split between those two casualties. And then you will then have another month where you will do specialist clinics. So as I mentioned, PE Provincial has the specialist departments, your cardiothoracics, urology, and so forth. So you'll do specialist clinics, and the ones that we get to do is ENT, ophthalmology, and as well as it's ENT and ophthalmology, and I just forgot the last one. It's the specialist clinic, the internal medicine, family medicine specialist clinic in Doranginza. Yes, that is the third one that you do. So that one you'll obviously do at Doranginza, and then the ophthalmology and the ENT you will do at PE Provincial. And then your third month, you will do clinics. So you'll do clinics in the surrounding areas being Motherwell CHC, being Zwide, Corsten was scrapped off. We don't do Corsten. You'll go to Warmer CHC. You'll go to Chetty, Letitia Bum, as well as there's something I'm forgetting, West End. So there are about 7 or 8 clinics. I might have forgotten one. Where the roster will be set out. Maybe you'll spend 4 days at a certain clinic, 5 days at another clinic, but you don't actually get to spend like a whole week. Once you find your footing in a clinic, you're already changing. Yeah, but it actually just teaches you how to adapt quickly. And in terms of the clinics also, there's a lot of supervision in the clinics. If you need any help, but they do let you make decisions because most of the patients are following up. And in terms of something new, you can always ask. So I think I've also mentioned the overview of the hospital. So as we know, Livingstone is a tertiary hospital. Doranginza is a tertiary hospital in terms of the specialities they have, and you're going to be rotating in, which is mainly pediatrics and obs and gynae, and as well as anesthesiology, as well as PE Provincial, and then Uitenhage is our secondary hospital that you get to work at as well. So in terms of calls, hours, and weekends, you shouldn't be on call for more than 2 weekends. There might be some rotations where you are on call maybe 3 weekends, but that is very seldom, except if you swap and you choose to do it like that. So on average, we work on call for 70 hours. That's our overtime. I think it was reduced from the previous years. If you see on this document, it's written 80 hours. So some departments, you do a 24-hour call. Some departments, you will do a 12-hour cover. In terms of other departments like anesthesiology, you will have the whole morning off where then you just go in at 4 and you do a 16-hour call. So in terms of anything else, I'm just trying to find where I am now. Okay, you must just be determined to learn. Also, as something that my previous two colleagues have mentioned. So you will learn what you're interested in if you are that person, but the advice that they have given is the advice I'm going to give. You must be eager to learn. People aren't just going to offer to teach you something. If you see something happening, you must ask. Throughout all the departments, some departments are stricter than others in terms of what you should know, maybe by the first week or the second week and so forth. But overall, it is pretty okay, and it shouldn't be that overwhelming. So moving on to social life. So in terms of social life, PE is buzzing. There are a lot of restaurants and warmer restaurants that you can get in other cities or where you went to varsity, as well as restaurants that are just local to Port Elizabeth. Moving out from Port Elizabeth, you're only an hour and a half drive from Plet, you're an hour drive from Jeffreys Bay, you are a 30-minute drive from Addo Elephant Park, as well as there are a lot of reserves and mountains surrounding us. There are groups that hike, that run. We've got 3 Virgin Actives in the city for the gym bunnies and also the nightlife. There are a couple of places that you can go to, recent ones that have opened now. There is also, for people who went to Cape Town, who went to school in Cape Town or are in school in Cape Town, in terms of art, you get your first Thursdays in Cape Town. Here you get Trucker Tuesdays and so forth. So if you just go even on Instagram, just search Port Elizabeth, what to do, they will give you a lot. And that is how I found my footing in terms of social life and what I like. Where should you stay? So I'm currently staying at the DQ right now, which is situated in the middle of Port Elizabeth, I will say, because if I'm driving to Warmer Park Mall, I take the same time as when I'm driving to Green Acres Mall, as when I'm driving to the boardwalk in Summerstrand. It's quite central. Also very close to the beach. You can actually see the beach from where you are. If you look at one of the pictures if you look at one of the pictures, there's a picture of a road at night that you can see. That picture was actually taken from the flat that I'm living at right now on 9th floor. Absolutely stunning view in the evening. So most of the flats you either share with 2 people or 1 person. I live with 1 person. They are very spacious. You could get in a dining room table in here. I just have a couch and a TV. And there's a kitchen, there's a toilet and a bathroom, which also has a toilet seat. In terms of maintenance, I think it's still the same as what's written in this document from 2020, where when you arrive, you've just got to come and inspect and see what you could fix. But in terms of maintenance, such as things like geysers, light bulbs, and fridges, you get a fridge, you get a stove when you get here. So everything else you'll buy for yourself. But in terms of maintenance, there is Mrs. Matebe who is on it. You send her a text today, it's fixed in 2 days' time or by the end of the week. So it depending on how urgent it is, also at the same time. Would I choose it again? Absolutely. As I started and I told you why I chose it. So I chose it more for personal reasons, but it has actually been satisfying even academically, because in some departments you were pushed and you just learned how to swim. But overall, in terms of the seniors, I think because also it's a complex, it's a complex with tertiary hospitals where people are specializing. You will get supervision, you will get taught. Most departments have morning meetings, and in the morning meetings, questions are asked. You are being put on the spot. but you can always call a friend. But you are taught, and your seniors will ask you again, and some will remember that they taught you this, and you have to learn it and know it, and they will ask. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Njonga.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That was really nice. I'm from PE, so I was like, oh, I recognize this and that and that and that.
Yeah.
So yeah. We have some questions. So what we're going to be doing is, because we're running a little bit like over time, we're going to try and get the speakers to also type in their responses on the Q&A section if there's a question that's directed towards you. So the attendees, your question might not necessarily be answered live, but then you can just check the Q&A section to see whether or not the doctor has typed in the response. If not, we will make sure that your question is answered, even if it means that we do that after the webinar. It's just that we are really pressed for time at the moment. But there was a question for, we're going to take one question each, and that is, for you, Dr. Njonga, which areas around PE are safest or best for accommodation if you're not living in a DQ?
Okay, so in terms of Port Elizabeth, the areas that are safe is your Warmer, it is your Newton Park. I know that because my aunt lives there. It's very safe. You get decent apartments, actually ranging from 6,000 to 8,000 rand, and they're pretty decent. And when you're talking about the 8,000 rand, you're talking about a 2-bedroom. If you're talking about the 6,000 rand one, you're talking about a 1-bedroom. Steeper ones are Summer Strand, I think, obviously, because you've got the beachfront, so you're going to be looking at about 9,000 rand for a 1-bedroom, and a good 11, 12 for a 2-bedroom apartment. And then you can also live near the DQ, so North End, St. George's, because I almost got an apartment when I didn't know what was happening with the DQ around St. George's, around the cricket stadium. So basically, if you live in the northern parts, your Summer Strand, your Warmer, your Newton Park, and also your North End, you should be fine.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Njonga. And then just for Dr. Fakude, just one question, and it's about which rotations at Umtata are the strongest, and are there any departments that really stand out in terms of teaching and exposure? So let's try, because we're running out of time, can you at least mention at least one department that stood out for you in Umtata, Dr. Fakude, and then we can type the rest of the response.
Yes, thank you for the question. So the rotation that stood out for me was pediatrics. So the pediatricians there, they're very pedantic on how they want their children to be treated and how they want their things to be run. And then in terms of all the other rotations, as I've said, it depends on you and how you apply yourself. But all of them, the amount of effort you apply yourself towards a rotation is the same that you'll get back. There's always an opportunity to learn with all the rotations. But the one that stood out for me was pediatrics and orthopedics now, because I'm interested in orthopedics. But all the other ones, they also offered the same. If you apply yourself, there's always an opportunity to learn so long as you apply yourself towards that rotation. And yes, I'll still choose it again.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much to our Eastern Cape Hospitals speakers, Dr. Davis, Jonga, and Fakude. As someone from the Eastern Cape, I think you represented us well. So thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to the Gauteng province now. We are going to be starting with our hospitals that are in the Johanesburg side. We have your Barra and Charlotte Maxeke. So we just gonna kindly ask for our speaker for Bara to come through for us, and that is going to be Dr. Mazibuko. Dr. Mazibuko?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You can put on your camera and then we're good to go.
Okay, I'm trying. My phone is giving me technical issues. Hold on. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Mazibugo. I was born and bred in Newcastle, trained. Can you see me?
We stopped being able to see you now, Dr. Mazibuko. But it's okay. I think you can just carry on.
Okay, sorry. I don't know why my device is acting up. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So I was born and bred in Newcastle, a small town called Matadeni. Then I trained at Sefako Makhatho Health Sciences University based in Gauteng in Pretoria. Honestly, Hani Baragwanath Academic Hospital wasn't part of any of my choices when applying to the ICSP. So I didn't choose Bara. Bara chose me. Um, so yes, and honestly, it has been a very humbling and a very it has been a very humbling experience at Bara, and I've honestly learned a lot over a short space of time. So I'm doing first year internship there, and I've only done 2 rotations so far, which is internal medicine and general surgery. So I'll just be giving a brief overview on those 2 rotations that I've done and my experience as a first year intern fresh from university. So I wasn't really mentally prepared to go to Bara because it's the biggest hospital in Africa. So when I saw that I was placed there, it came across as a huge shock, and I had to mentally prepare myself. I had to come to terms with the fact that I'm gonna deal with hectic working hours, long shifts, and social life wise, I was going to be affected. So, to just reflect on clinical exposure, um, honestly, Hani Baragwanath has offered a lot of clinical exposure for me thus far. But then it also depends on how you push yourself, just like my colleagues have previously mentioned. It depends on how you push yourself as a person. If you show them that you're enthusiastic and you're willing to learn, they give you those opportunities to learn. And I've had really nice seniors in these 2 rotations that I've done, and they've been hands-on, they've been readily available, and the supervision has been great. But then there's been certain challenges because Bara is a vet circuit kind of environment. About 95% of the interns at Bara trained at vets, and I didn't train at vets. So at first I had a bit of a difficulty with fitting in because I wasn't from vets, and I wasn't familiar with the protocols. I wasn't familiar with the corners of Bara because it's a very huge hospital. And the first month, I'd say I got lost almost every day because each and every area I went to, it was just so unfamiliar to me. But then over time, be used to, I got used to Bara and every corners of it. I must say it was very humbling at first, coming straight from varsity, having to incorporate medical knowledge with clinical skills. It was a bit of a challenge because it's a very busy hospital, and there's a large number of patients. and you see different clinical conditions on a daily basis. So having to remember medical knowledge and incorporate it and together with your clinical skills, it was a challenge for me. But then I honestly gave it my best shot from day one. And with the fact that the seniors are readily available, considering the busy nature of Bara, it wasn't as bad. So general surgery so far, because I've only done 2 rotations, was my best if I had to compare it to internal medicine, simply because it had a structure and it was just so nicely organized. We knew where we were supposed to be, and we had time to even rest and have day offs and just try to, you know, have a social life. So what I loved about general surgery is the fact that you had trauma calls and you had surgical emergency unit calls. With the trauma calls, I enjoyed them a lot because you got to learn a lot of clinical procedures. Like if you show that you're willing and you are enthusiastic, they give you an opportunity to actually do the procedures yourself. You get to put in IC drains at first year internship level, and fortunately it was my first rotation, so I was still energetic from med school, wanting to prove myself and wanting to learn more. So trauma just offered me a lot of opportunities because I got to do a lot of procedures. I got to see a lot of patients, and fortunately, I did trauma January, which was like a post festive season. So that's where the most trauma cases were the hectic trauma cases were seen at trauma emergency units. So I got to be hands on a lot. I learned a lot. Yes. And then surgical emergency unit also offered a lot of opportunities because you get to see patients, you get to be the first point of contact for patients, and you come up with your own assessment, your own diagnosis. But under no given circumstance, you're going to be alone. There's always going to be a medical officer, a ComServe doctor, and a registrar next to you to just make sure that you don't make those mistakes that are going to cost the patient's life, and they're going to guide you. They're never going to make you feel stupid. They're also going to take your inputs and just try to act in the best interest of the patient. It was a little bit unbearable at first, especially with the ward call system, whereby you had to be on call and you are the ward call intern. You have to manage all the surgical wards alone. Ward call for me was very hectic, especially in general surgery, because you were alone and you're covering about 10 surgical unit wards, and you kind of like have to split yourself into three. You have to deal with the sisters calling you for emergencies in the wards. There's intensive care unit ward whereby you have to do blood gases, you have to take care of the sick patients, and then also you have to sort out the red flags from other interns, because sometimes they don't get to see their patients in time, so they'll just red flag on the red flag group. So you, as the ward call intern working overnight, you're gonna have to see those patients and manage those and cover those flags. So it was a bit of a challenge, especially with Gen Surg being my first rotation. But then you get to learn a lot. Um, you get to be exposed to a lot, and you get to actually you get the habit of managing patients, especially when you are alone. But then the nice thing about being at Bara is the fact that you're never gonna be alone. There's always gonna be someone you can consult for assistance. Teamwork was also one of the things that made general surgery easy for me, because as much as we were from different institutions, okay, in my group, I was the only one from SMU. All the other interns were from Verts, but then we worked very well together because we had a common goal, which was to help patients and to make the ward work slightly bearable, because sometimes it got really unbearable because it's a very big hospital. It's the biggest hospital in Africa. So like each ward has like about 62 beds. So you can imagine the ward work on a daily basis. It gets overwhelming at times. So if you don't form a team and you don't um work well with your other fellow interns, then you're gonna struggle. If you that person who's used to working in isolation, you're gonna struggle a lot because it gets really overwhelming at times. And then the quality of supervision, just as I've mentioned, it's honestly been exceptional because our seniors are always readily available. They're always willing to teach, provided that you show them that you want to be taught and you're willing to actually work. They're readily available. They give you opportunities to learn. If you want to put in a CVP, they allow you to do that. Under supervision, of course. If you push yourself, honestly, it becomes really bearable. And then relationship with other healthcare professionals, everyone is just so understanding because they know that it's a busy hospital. The nurses, the occupational therapists, the physiotherapists, we form a really good relationship with them and we work well together with them because they know it's a big hospital and the patient numbers are just a lot sometimes. So they really understand the importance of teamwork because it gets overwhelming sometimes. And then it's a big institution and it's affiliated with VERT. So there's a lot of teaching and there's a lot of academics. So with general surgery, we had morning academic meetings every week where they would discuss a certain topic. Students would be actively involved as well. They'll be there. We would compile presentations and you would just learn a lot. And also we would have weekly morbidity and mortality meetings where we got to learn a lot. It also offers a lot of opportunities if you are willing to push yourself as well as an intern. Okay, then coming into internal medicine, which is my current rotation until Tuesday. Honestly, internal medicine hasn't been easy. It's just been one of those rotations whereby um, there's just been a huge volume of work on a daily basis because we are allocated our own patients and we are on intake every 5 days. So it's honestly up to you as to how you balance your numbers. It can get overwhelming, and sometimes you forget to see certain patients, especially if you're sitting on high numbers. But then internal medicine is a nice rotation because you get to be exposed to a lot of skills and you get to be taught a lot. You make mistakes, but then your seniors are readily available to correct you and hold your hand every step of the journey. But it's just been one rotation that's been so challenging to me. But honestly, I learned a lot and I've improved a lot clinical skills wise. And yes, internal medicine has just been um, hectic, yes, but then I don't mean to intimidate anyone. It's just been hectic. But then if you work well with your fellow interns as well, like I've mentioned, even with general surgery, it can be bearable. You can do it. But then social life wise, internal medicine, you're always busy, you're always working. You only get like 2 day offs a month because it's just so busy. And you always just see these complex clinical conditions, these diagnoses that you thought you'd never meet in life. You see them in internal medicine, and it teaches you to just be on top of your game at all times and read. What I'd advise the final year medical students to do is that you should always just be up to date with the protocols, especially if you're coming from a different institution, and just push yourself to just read, even though you're not going to find time, you'll be exhausted most of the time, but just try to read, try to familiarize yourself with certain concepts so that it's easier. But then it's nice at Bara because they give you an opportunity to see the patient and make your own assessment and manage manage the patient until you discharge the patient. So you also have a clacking book where you write all the different kinds of conditions and patients you've seen throughout the rotation. And it's a separate logbook where you also need to get signatures for with us. And then there's the HPCSA logbook where you get the signatures at the end of the rotation. But internal medicine is it's a very nice rotation because it allows you to be hands-on. It allows you to have that feel that you are now a doctor and you're managing your own patients and you're making your own assessment with your first contact with the patients. Social scene wise, so Chris Hani Baragwanath is two doctors' quarters. There's an old DQ and there's a new doctors' quarters. Most of the interns stay there. I would say it's a fair environment because it has utilities, it has electricity. However, it doesn't have most of the things you're gonna have to buy yourself if you're looking into staying into the DQ, because there's no kitchen, there's no laundry room. It's just a bedroom with cupboards. So you're gonna have to buy your own fridge. You're gonna have to buy your own stove, and whatever else that you're going to need. Yeah. But then the old DQ, I think it has, because I was staying in the new DQ, I think it has you have your own bathroom and you have your own mini kitchen. The new doctor's quarters, we don't have that. So yeah. And then Bara is in Soweto, so it's closer to Maponya Mall for accessibility. It's closer to Jabulani Mall, and then we work closely with Bheki Mlangeni Hospital. We work closely with Lillian Ngoi. Yeah, they mostly refer to us. Yeah, it's very accessible and it's closer to Joburg if you are looking into fun places. So for me, it's just been 6 months. I haven't been exposed to a lot of these places because I'm from KZN and I trained in Victoria. But my overall experience so far has been it has been good. I've learned a lot. I'm honestly grateful that even though I didn't apply at Chris Hani Baragwanath initially, I got placed there because I feel like I've just been better over a short space of time. I've learned a lot. I'm still learning a lot. And I needed that push. I needed to work at Bara to gain the skills that I've gained over a short space of time and the knowledge that I've gained. So yeah, it's just all about pushing yourself and just being enthusiastic, being energetic, and being willing to learn because it's a big hospital, so it's going to teach you a lot, and you're going to face a lot of challenges, but those challenges are going to make you stronger. So you kind of like have to be mentally prepared, physically prepared, because it's not easy at all. And the hours, the high patient volume, but overall you're going to be exposed to a lot of common and rare things, and you will just be better. Yes, so it's a cycle of constant learning working at Bara. Every shift just presents opportunities to encounter complex pathology and to improve your clinical judgment. And honestly, you just tend to learn a lot. That's just my overall experience over these 6 months that I've worked at Bara, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Mazibuko. We are going, so attendees, please put your questions on the Q&A section. We're going to move on to Charlotte Maxeke, whereby we are going to have Dr. Mokhatla come and talk to us about internship at Charlotte Maxeke. Thanks, Harold.
Good evening. Hopefully everyone can see me. My name is Harold Mkhari. I'm a medical intern at Charlotte Maxeke doing my first year. Never mind any background noises. I have my younger brothers over. So I'll be talking about Charlotte Maxeke. So a brief history on Charlotte Maxeke is the third biggest hospital in South Africa and second in Gauteng after Bara. So the Charlotte Maxeke is a quaternary hospital and it's situated in Parktown and it serves as an academic hospital for Wits University. In fact, the medical campus for Wits is directly connected to Charlotte Maxeke. So you can leave from medical school right into Charlotte Maxeke. And the hospital primarily receives let's say referrals from Southern Edenvale, Far Eastern Tambo Memorial, Hillbrow Clinic, and also from Alexandra. And when you're in Charlotte Maxeke, it's roughly 10-minute drive to Rosebank, which is also and the place is also close to the M1, and it makes it convenient for people to travel joining the N1. And the closest malls you are close to here is Rosebank, which is a big mall, has almost everything that you need. And the other malls around it's Midrand, and also it's also closer to Sandton. It's around 25 minutes to Sandton when you're driving. And also if you are someone who travels around 30 minutes to the airport. So another thing is that it's the nearest places close to Hillbrow, Yeoville, and the Joburg CBD, and it's very close to Brahms, like 5 minutes from here to Bram. So about internship at Charlotte Maxeke, like any other hospital, it's the rotations are divided into 3 months. The first month, I'm currently finishing off obstetrics and gynae, and I started in peds. So when you're in peds here, you do sorry, give me a second. Sorry, I was just talking to my younger brothers. When you're here, you spend 6 weeks in. When you're in PEDS, you spend 6 weeks in neonatal, and you spend the other 6 weeks in general PEDS. So when you're on call, when in PEDS, every night there's two registrars that are on call, and there's two interns that are on call. The other intern covers general PEDS, and then the other intern covers neonatal. So general PEDS is not as heavy as neonatal calls, because when you're on call for neonatal, you cover a whole ward for neonates, and the senior and the registrar covers the the high care of neonates. So there's low care to say, and then there's high care. So the registrar is primarily in high care, and you're primarily in the low care. And then as an intern, when you are in PEDS, the only thing you should be more comfortable doing is really doing neonatal resuscitations, because you get called to a lot of those. And most of the time you don't have to worry, because your senior most of the time comes and do that. But then we've had incidences whereby there are more than two resuscitations at a time. So you have to be the lead doctor at the other resuscitation. And then there's, in my opinion, PEDS has been the most organized rotation I've been in. And then from there, we move to Obs and Gynae, which is also 3 months. Obs and Gynae at Shalmatek is very busy, to say the least. You do more of obstetrics than gynecology. Obstetric it's very heavy, because you can be on your feet from 7 a.m. until 11 a.m. the following day, but there's enough teaching, and you can get the required amount of procedures that are needed in your logbook. Um, since it's a quaternary hospital, so it means that we get very complicated cases. So most of the time you get someone who has previous Caesar times 4, previous Caesar times 3, or it's a high BMI patient, or it's an eclamptic patient. So most of the time the registrars are keen to teach, sorry, if you are willing to ask questions and if you are willing to learn procedures, they don't mind teaching most of the time. And then from here, it's internal medicine. Internal medicine at Schuur is very super specialized. It's like very super specialized. Even as an intern, you don't primarily see patients. You do most of the ward work and do procedures, but then seeing patients, you don't something that is primarily done by the registrars, and then the registrar will come and tell you about the patient and what to do for the patient. So it has 10 subspecialties, which is GIT, neurology, hematology, oncology, renal rheumatology, infectious diseases, RESP, cardiology, and endocrine. There's usually 2 interns on call per night, and one intern is meant to cover 5 special subspecialties. The other intern covers the other 5. But then in the 3 months, you are only allocated to rotate in 3 specialties. But then when you're on call, you cover the other subspecialties. And usually, and the course at Schuur, they start from 16 hours until the next day at 12 hours. So you work for 4 p.m. until the next day at 12 p.m. And then on weekends, there's something we call covers, whereby the other intern will come from morning until the afternoon, and then the other intern who's on call only comes in the afternoon to do their call. And then we have Gensight, which is also 3 months. It has mostly has colorectal and upper GI, endocrine and breast, and it also has acute care, but it's a new unit, this one, and does not have interns allocated to it. So there's 2 interns on call per night. The other intern will cover colorectal and upper GI, and then the other intern will cover endocrine and breast. And then the calls that side, they're not too busy, and you get to sleep. In internal medicine and surgery, you can get to sleep during your call, but in obs and gynae, you don't get to sleep. Neonatal, you can sleep, because neonatal most of the time depends on obstetrics, and obstetric, if they're cutting high risk patients, you have to resuscitate some patients. And then moving on to second year internship, which is divided into psychiatry. The first rotation will be psychiatry, which is 2 months, and you do it right here at Schuur, which has male and female ward, and you also get to do emergency. You also get to go to casualty for psych, and then also consults from the hospitals. They call you for consults, and then other hospitals like Hillbrow and Southend will be referring patients here. So psych is not that heavy here, because there's roughly 1 intern per call at the night, at night, with 1 registrar, and people say that they are able to sleep during their rotations here. And then there's anesthesia, which is also 2 months. Anesthesia usually it changes according to department, according to the department, because now I had that the calls in anesthesia, they're 16 hours, and it's not as rough as the other rotations. But then you get to, anesthesia, you get to sit down, and you can even get to sleep during the rotation. If most of the time, if you're allocated to other if you're allocated maybe to less busier, as an intern, you don't get to do the busy theaters. That is for the senior registrars to do. And then there's orthopedics, which is mainly 1 month of trauma. And and then the other month you get to do subspecialties like the spine, and then arthroplasty, peds, such things. You get to do them when you're in orthopedics. And there's 1 intern that covers the call during the night for orthopedic wards and trauma casualty patients that present during the night. And then there's family medicine, which is 6 months, and you only do 1 month of family medicine at Charlotte Maxeke. The other 5 months you do at the other hospitals and clinics. You do another month in Hillbrow, you go to 1 month in Alexandra, and you go to Southend, etc., etc. It's like our neighboring hospital, those ones that I mentioned, that they're the ones that refer to the hospital. So when you're doing family medicine, you get to go there. And then, yeah, maybe in finishing, because Simja is a quaternary hospital, so you get to have almost all the specialties are here. Starting from students, interns, comserves are here, MOs and post-comserve MOs are here, registrars and consultants, even subspecialized consultants are here. And there's the supervision here, I don't want to lie, it's you get more than what you'd actually need. There's never a time whereby I ever called a senior and they didn't show up in the next 3 minutes or the next 2 minutes to see the patient that I was seeing. And you get to learn, as I said. And then talking about the doctor's quarters, it's about 5 minutes walk from the hospital. You don't actually need to drive to go to the hospital. And I've never heard of any incidences that have happened when somebody was walking from the hospital to here, because it's roughly like 5 minutes away. And 5 minutes when you're walking very slow, 3 minutes if you're walking very fast. I haven't heard of any incidences that have happened so far. And then going back to talking about how the doctor's quarters are. So it's a studio apartment. You have your own kitchen inside and a bathroom, and the space is reasonable. You can get almost everything you need here for your survival. The only problem with the DQs here, they are the rules, because the DQ primarily belongs to vet. So that means that the DQ is under VET's rules, but then it's something that we are still fighting against, that they should let some things slip up, because we are adults here. So, for example, in DQ, it's mainly doctors and pharmacists that stay here. And then there's visiting hours from morning until 10 p.m. If you want somebody to stay in to sleep over, you have to register that you have to register during the day that I have someone who's going to be sleeping in. And you have, I think they can sleep consecutive days of 3 to 5 days. You basically have like 10 days in a month. And then if you are someone who's married and have kids, there's a separate DQ that side, whereby if you're married and you're living with your partner, that one does not have rules. It's mostly the registrars and MOs that are staying there, because most of them are married and have kids. And then people that maybe enjoy going to gym, we don't have a nearby gym in this institution. So if you want to go to gym, you mostly have to go to Rosebank. There's multiple gyms there. And I think the cheapest around 670. I forgot the name of it. And then there's also Virgin Active that is also there. And then you don't necessarily have to do physical shopping. There's availability of 60/60 pick and pay, and they also deliver here. And then we don't have, talking about salary, we don't get rural allowance here. So the salary as it stands now is around 53,000 rands. Yeah, 53,000 K. That is what you get in your bank account. And yeah. And then okay, back to DQ, monthly is around 960 rents. So yeah, if you want to stay outside, I've seen a few apartments outside, but then I haven't seen apartments that are because this is in Joburg CBD, so I haven't seen apartments that are less than 7,000 rands per month. So it's very convenient to stay in DQ where you're paying less than 1,000 rands per month. So Yeah. I think that would be it for me, unless if there are questions inside the chat box.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mokhatla. For the Joburg hospital, so that is Bara and Simja, which is Charlotte Maxeke, attendees can put their questions on the Q&A, or you can even ask us after the webinar. We are just really running out of time here. We just have one question with regards to Bara, or Dr. Mazibuko. Is there support for interns? Because you did mention that it's quite a jump moving from internship to a place like Bara that is busy and is quite demanding. Is there support for interns?
What form of support?
So, are there channels that interns can use or access if they are not coping well? Is the culture accepting if maybe you're struggling a little bit and you just need a little bit of extra help, or are you seen as you are lazy, you're not, Bara material? Is there support, and is there that kind of environment that is at least welcoming and accommodating to someone that might be struggling a little bit?
I just believe, okay, with my experience, I just believe that all we have is each other as interns to vent to each other and to offer support. I haven't really heard that there's a specific channel whereby if you're struggling, then you can be offered support. All we just have is each other to give support to each other. But then your seniors as well, they're not going to overwhelm you with work. They will support you. I must say, with these 2 rotations that I've done, the seniors have been very supportive. And if you're not coping, you can let them know, and they'll try to find ways to make the workload slightly bearable for you, and so that you feel less so that you feel more comfortable and you feel supported. But like, as for a formal channel, I'm not really sure if there's one. We just vent to each other and we just carry on because we know how hectic it is. So
Okay, all right. Thank you, Dr. Mazibuko. And then for Dr. Mokhatla, there was a question. So an attendee is asking, he's asking, besides rural medicine, are there other blocks that requires rotating in other hospitals if you're placed at Charlotte Maxeke?
No, only when you're doing family medicine where you get to rotate in other hospitals. Charlotte Maxeke, I feel like the exposure here, it's enough that you get, but only in family medicine that you get to go to other institutions to learn there.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Dr. Mokhatla. Like we said, you can send us your questions even after the webinar. We're going to move on to the hospitals that are in the Pretoria area, and we're going to be handing over to Dr. Sitole to tell us a little bit about Steve Biko Academic Hospital.
Hello, hey guys, can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I don't really have a presentation, so I'll just be doing more of talking. So I'm Dr. Sole from Nkandla, KZN. I did my MBCHB Emedunza, now known as SMU. So this year I'm doing my first year internship as Steve Biko. I'll just comment on the 2 rotations that I've just done for now, which is internal medicine and general surgery, which I'll be finishing tomorrow. So I started with internal. Guys, Steve Biko is a tertiary hospital, and it's also an academic hospital, meaning there'll be students most of the times, but also you are going to be alone when maybe they're on holidays or they have tutorials and stuff like that. So with internal medicine, I did it from January until much. It was quite a big jump for me moving from straight from university to Steve Biko. It's such a big hospital and they do a lot of admissions. Like there's so many patients. I remember my first day when I was on call, I was so overwhelmed because I was on call on the very first day of the rotation and I didn't know anything. I didn't know the hospital and how things work. But there was a senior, she did help us there in the so with internal medicine, you are just expected to collect patients, review them, and then you present them to your senior when you are on call, right? That's what you do, and then you also see patients in the ward. At Steve Biko, there is also rotations within internal medicine. So meaning that there will be some weeks where you will be doing endocrine, some weeks you'll be doing, I think, rheumatology. Yeah, it's those two rotations that you do for like 2 weeks, and then you also go back to like internal medicine as a whole. And then with general surgery, it's divided into like 7 firms. You do trauma, there's HBP, hepatobiliary, there is colorectal, there is ped surgery, there is vascular, and others. I wouldn't mention all of them, but you get to rotate in all these firms. Some will spend 1 week, some will spend 2 weeks, and I feel like that works much better to do rotations because in internal medicine, you just do the whole of 3 months, you are with the same people, there is no rotation. Whereas in surgery, you get to see, like to work with different people because as you move to a different firm, you find different regs. And also you get to have a break because some firms are not as hectic as others, whereas internal is just hectic throughout, right? There's few questions that you sent me with regards to clinical exposure. Like in a tertiary hospital, remember here you are competing with students, you are competing with regs. So you need to be a very keen intent to learn. So you must have a positive attitude. You must tell your regs that you want to do certain procedures, then they're going to help you. But also if you are a lazy intern and don't want to do anything, all you can do, you can just click patients and just keep it moving. It depends with your attitude, really. And then teaching and supervision, you do get taught, like I said, also that if you are keen, you are going to get taught. But if you are not, you are just going to push the word work. Really, it just depends with the attitude that you have. And then with the workload, you guys, I don't know, maybe it's because I started with internal medicine. The workload at Steve Biko is a lot. Like you can be on your feet from in the morning until 7 p.m. in internal medicine specifically. And that's like a normal day, like from Monday until Friday. It's really hectic. But also, as I got used to the rotation and how things work at the hospital, I was now able to at least try and finish a bit earlier, which was like 5. Yeah, you're going to be on your feet in that hospital until the very last minutes that you leave. And then the other question was the hospital culture and working environment. Okay, so with the hospital culture, Steve Biko is known for its excellence. And they do most things because it's a big hospital and it has so many specialties within. So you get too much exposure to many different kinds of conditions. And then with the working environment, there is nice people, some not so nice. I mean, we're a lot and we are all working under pressure. Yeah, you just need to focus on why you are there really and have a positive attitude because some people are gonna be not so kind, not because they are really being unkind, but just because they are also overwhelmed on their side. So you just need to be a bit more understanding. Yeah. And then with the accommodation, there is 2 DQs that I know of. I'm staying at the one called Lisa Hoff. I forgot the name of others. It's quite a nice DQ. Yeah, there is water, there's electricity. The DQ comes with a kitchen, a dining area, a bathroom. Some will have both a bathtub and a shower, and then there is the bedroom. So the only thing you're gonna find is just the stove. Then everything you're gonna buy for yourself, right? And then there is maintenance people. If there is issues, you can always report to the person in charge of the apartment, and then they're going to call maintenance people to come and assist with whatever that goes wrong in your apartment. Yeah. It's quite a reasonable DQ. Also, yes, you can stay with your partner. There's also others that stay with their kids and some family members. But I'm not sure about the channel that you're supposed to go through when you want to do such a thing, but they do it. Yeah, it's allowed. And then the social life, there is malls. I mean, we are in the CBD of Pretoria. So there is Central, there is mall called Gezina Galleries, there is Jacaranda Mall. If you want to gym, there is gym at Loftus. And then if you like clubbing, I mean, we are in Pretoria, there's so many clubs, you're gonna be fine. There's access to Ubers. You can also do order like Uber Eats. Yeah, you won't be having so much issues because you are in town, like I said. What else did I not answer? The key strengths and challenges. Guys, like I said, that with me, Steve Biko overwhelms me. There's so many patients that you're going to admit, and there's always so much ward work. But maybe also, I think it's because I started with heart rotations. They did tell us that internal and gen surge are quite difficult rotations here in Steve Biko compared to gen surge and ped surgery. So I'm hoping that things are going to get better. But so far, it's been going down, really. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. But overall, you will have supports from your seniors. Also, like, people are not really the same. Some seniors are more kind, they will help you throughout. Some are not so kind. Yeah, you'll just have to stack it out. But I really learned a lot at Steve Biko. Also, there's so much convenience. That's one thing that I like, because if you need to send patients to cardiology is just here. There's x-rays, there's CT. You don't have to wait long periods for patients to be diagnosed. There's porters to push patients who won't be a porter at the hospital. There's lifts. Like, it's very much convenient. You won't be like walking up and down to different buildings. It's just one building. You just go up and down with the lifts. I think that's overall. Otherwise, Steve Biko is nice. If you guys want to come and get the exposure there, you can come. You learn a lot. Yeah, that's all I can say. Thank you. I'll just wait for questions if there's something I didn't answer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sithole. We will move on to George Mkhari, and then the questions we will pick one or two afterwards. We'll move on to George Mkhari Hospital, and we have Dr. Ndlebe. Over to you, Doctor.
Guys, can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Ndlebe Mapinga. I am from Engcobo at Eastern Cape, and I studied at Walter Sisulu University. I'm currently doing my second year internship at Dr. George Mkhari Academic Hospital. So George is located at the far north of Pretoria. It's closer to northwest than it is closer to Pretoria. So from here to Pretoria, it's like plus minus 25. Pretoria Central, it's like plus minus 25 kilometers. And then to northwest, it's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. And then to Joburg, it's like plus minus, let's say, for example, you're going to Kempton Park, it's like plus minus 70, 75 kilometers. And the way that it's built, its infrastructure is going sideways. It's not going up. So you will walk. If you're going to the X-ray department, you'll walk. If you're going to maybe another department, let's say you're in surgery, you're going to internal medicine, you will walk. We will walk. That is how it's built. Because of time, I'll try and summarize a lot of my presentation. So I will couple clinical exposure together with teaching. So when it comes to ONG, there's a lot of clinical exposure. Like as my other colleagues had said, you have to be interested, like you have to show interest. There's no registrar or there's no MO that is going to want to teach you or is going to allow you to do something if you're not showing them that you're interested. But in ONG, you will do your evacuations and yeah. And also there's ESMO. So they teach us a lot of emergency conditions and stuff like that. So we get taught in ONG and also you perform a lot of procedures. But mainly the thing that is mainly in our logbooks is Caesars. So you do cut if also you show interest that you do want to cut, because you will go to you'll go to theater, right? But then if you're just there and you're like, oh, okay, I'm here to assist, no one is going to be like, hey, cut. But you have to actually tell them that, doc, I've assisted in 5 procedures now, and I know that when you cut, you're supposed to do A, B, and C. Can you please allow me to do this case? They will allow you. I think in overall, I cut about 4 patients from finish to end, or maybe from halfway up until the end. But that was because I was proactive. And then also, if you are willing to work at night, like during your call, instead of resting, you're like, can I please go and assist? They'll let you assist. And then in internal medicine, there was teaching, but then the teaching was more registrar-based than intern-based. If you get what I mean. So you'd have to go to a meeting. If let's say there's a meeting on that day and they're gonna be teaching, you have to have like some form of knowledge of the topic, that because they give out the topics that are gonna be taught on the day. So you have to have some knowledge of the topic if you want to gain something. But it was mainly register based. It was not for interns. But then in terms of procedures, when you're on call, you do things, you do taps, you do a lot of procedures. Also, if you are proactive. And then surgery, it's the same for surgery. In the morning, there's morning meetings, they teach. You will know the day before the topics that they're going to talk about. If you study a little bit, you'll gain something. But then it's also mainly registrar based. But then if you did, like you looked at stuff the night before, you will gain something. And then in terms of procedures, it's also the same. You have to be proactive. And then, but here's the thing, they teach you how to be independent. Because if they show you how to do a procedure today and then you do it tomorrow, meanwhile they're watching, the third day, there's no need for them to be there. So they know that they've taught you, you've done it in front of them, and then, yeah. So they really did teach me how to be very independent at in surgery. And it's also my favorite block. So I learned a lot. And also, if you ask them that, can I please go to surgery? Can I please go to theater? They'll allow you. Can I please cut? I've observed A, B, and C. I think I know how this is done. They will allow you, but only if you're proactive. And then psych, there's not much that is done in psych, honestly. There were morning meetings as well. Thing is, I was not quite interested in psych, but then they taught. But yeah, as I had said, it's mainly registrar based. But if you also like want to learn and stuff like that, they said that if you want to present in the morning, you can, but then if you don't want to present, you don't have to present. So if you're a person that is interested in psych, then you will present in the morning, and then they'll ask you questions. You would have studied about the patient that you're presenting and then anesthesia. There was not a lot of academics in anesthesia. They had their own meetings, but they were mainly their own. But then in terms of clinical exposure, you will know how to intubate. They will wake you up at like 5 a.m., 3 a.m., and say, come intubate. You will know how to intubate. It'll be like, you'll be surprised at the amount of skill that you will gain when it comes to intubating. You will feel like, yeah. And then also you will do a lot of spinals. Like at anesthesia, they teach you a lot, and they just teach you. What's nice about anesthesia is that they teach you how to be a calm doctor, because everything is there, everyone is calm, and yeah. So in terms of clinical exposure, anesthesia, they got you. Ortho, you have to know how to put back slabs. I'm sure we all know how to put back slabs, but then like there's certain types of back, because the thing is here when you're on call, I remember my first call in ortho, I was alone with this other guy who's also an intern. There was no registrar. In casualty, we had to do our own back slabs, we had to reduce, we had to, yeah. So in terms of that, yes, they are always there at the phone. Like you can call them, you can text them, they'll tell you to do a certain back slab that you've never heard of, you've never seen, and then you have to like think on your feet and stuff like that. But then some of them do come and help you and show you. But most of the times when you're on call in ortho, you are mainly alone. But then the calls are not quite hectic, more especially if okay, I'll come to calls as yeah. And then FemMed, I haven't done FemMed, but then so FemMed is split. You do FemMed here in Dr. George Mkhari Academic Hospital, 2 months, and then 2 months you go, you do it in clinics. There's 2 clinics, there's Odi, there's Soshanguve and Pedisong, I think. Pedisong is like 10 minutes away from here. And then Soshanguve, I think 15, 20 minutes away, I'm not quite sure. And then there's Odi. Odi is also like 15-ish minutes away. So it's 2 months in George Mkhari. You're also doing your course here in George Mkhari. And then when you're in the clinics, it's 2 months there. It's either you're in Pedisong or you're in Soshanguve. It's 2 months there. And you also do your course here in George Mkhari. And then 2 months in Odi. And then in Odi, you do your calls in Odi. So it's a hospital that is around here. It's like 20 minutes away. And then, so first year, you do first year here in the hospital. You don't move from the hospital to another hospital. Everything is here. And then it's a tertiary hospital. And then second year, you only go to the other places when you're doing FemMed. And then in terms of calls and workload, it depends, honestly. It depends. But in terms of work, like on a daily for all of the rotations, in the morning, you go to the morning meeting, attend the morning meeting. And then, as I've said, it's mainly registrar based. So even the questions that they ask, they're not quite asking interns, they're asking registrars. But then if you do have an answer, they won't stop you from answering. And also if you have a question, they won't stop you from asking the question. And then, so you go to the meeting, and then after that, you go and see patients. So let's say it's your first week. So obviously on the first week, the first 2-3 days, they're gonna show you things around that. Okay, in the morning you're supposed to come, you're supposed to see patients, and then you're supposed to formulate management. And then if you see that maybe there's something that you don't understand, or there's something that's going on with the patient and you're not quite sure, then you can call for help and be like, doc, so I saw this is what's going on, but I'm not quite sure how to manage the patient. They're always there, the registers are always there. But the problem is that most of the registers here, because the academic hospital, they're always studying. They're always studying to write. Most of them are writing very soon. So they do go to the wards if like it's a need, but the primary person that sees patients are interns. So you come, you see the patients, and then if you see that you're not able to manage the patient by yourself, you will call the doctor, and then your senior will come. Might not necessarily come now, but eventually they will come. And then in terms of calls, so calls vary. ONG calls were split into ops and gynae. If you're doing a ops call, you will be on call from 8 up until 8 a.m. up until 8 p.m. And then from 8 p.m., someone will come and swap with you. And then gynae is 24 hours. So if you're on call on gynae, you will come in the morning, you'll do your work, and then from 4 up until the following day, you're on call. So you're mainly calling in casualty. If there's a gynae patient in casualty, they'll call you, and then you'll go to casualty, see the patient. If you're admitting the patient goes to the ward. If you're discharging the patient, then you're discharging the patient. But mainly, gynae calls, they were done in casualty, and then ops calls, they were done in obstetric wards. And then internal medicine, it depends how you want to split calls, and there is post-call in ONG. And then in internal medicine, it depends on how you guys split calls. You can split calls, have 3, like let's say from 8 a.m. in the morning up until 4, and then from 4 up until 12, and then from 12 up until the following day. Or do 12-12. It depends on you guys and the number of group that you are. So it's advisable to split calls like into 12 hours, so that at least the person that was on call at, time. But yeah, guys, basically. And then in terms of supervision, there is supervision, guys. There is supervision. If the doctor is not right there at casualty, let's say, for example, if you're calling at casualty, you can always call them. They will come. If they're at theater, they will come. Or if they can't come at that point in time, they will tell you what to do. But yeah. And then in terms of accommodation, there is DQ. But then what usually, for example, what happened to me, I was firstly allocated at nurses' home. And then I think I stayed at nurses' home for like 2 weeks or so. And then they allocated me to DQ. So DQ, there's bachelor, and then there's 1 bedroom, I think, and then there's 2 bedroom, and then there's 3 bedrooms. So I moved from nurses' home to a bachelor, and then from a bachelor, I got a 2 bedroom. So you can move in with your family. You just tell the accommodation lady that, hey, I'm married, I have 2 kids, and then they'll sort you out. What else? In terms of social life, this hospital is situated in a township, I think, called Garangua. I haven't been around, so I don't know about what people do here in Garangua. Honestly, like in terms of like partying and stuff like that, I don't know. But then there is Uber, there is Bolt, and it's available all the time. You can Uber from Joburg at around 12. You coming here, and then you can order food from Checkers. There's a nearby complex that is like 15 minutes away. So you can order from Checkers, you can order from KFC, there's the bonnets and chicken licken as well. But then you have to go to the gate to get the food. The food doesn't come in according to the hospital rules. And then what else? But basically, in general, what this hospital has taught me is independence. So they really make sure that you are independent as a doctor. When you go to ComServe, you are like, yeah. I think I'll end there, and then if there's anything, you can ask.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lebe. We're just gonna have one question, and it's gonna be the same question for both. We are really pressed for time. One question, one strength and one weakness of being placed at your hospital, and you have like 20 seconds to say that before we move to the Western Cape with Dr. Ngeni.
So my strength, as I've already mentioned, is independence. I've learned that. They taught me that and they've instilled that in me. And then my weakness, you said weakness, ne? Or
Yes.
challenge is the fact that this place is far from everywhere. It's far from everywhere. That's the challenge. So I would advise a person that is going to come here to try and buy a car like early in the year because it's far from everywhere. Yeah. So,
Right. Thank you, Dr. One strength and one weakness of being at Steve Biko. You have 20 seconds.
Hey, my strength is that now I can be more independent, yeah, compared to when I was still a student. My weakness, I think I get so overwhelmed every day at Steve Biko. Yeah, I get so overwhelmed.
Yeah. Oh, so it's quite a tough environment. It's quite a lot. But like you said, you started with the difficult rotations. But strongs to you, strongs to you. Hopefully we'll get better as time goes on. We're gonna be thank you to our Joburg speakers, our Gauteng province speakers. We're gonna move on to the Western Cape. We have one person from the Western Cape, Dr. Ngele. He's going to be talking about internship at Tygerberg Hospital. Unfortunately for GSA, Dr. Mashudu could not join us because she had to attend to something that was very urgent. So we're going to be having Dr. Ngele, and we'll be sharing Dr. Mashudu's presentation on the final years group. So Dr. Ngele, you are our last speaker. Take us home. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if I can be. Hello, guys. I'm sorry, I'm just using my phone. I just want to see if I'm being viewed correctly. I also want to share the screen. No, I think I'm on the. Okay, maybe this is better. Okay, let me just try to share my screen. Okay, while I do this, so I'm Dr. Ngele. I'm currently an independent medical practitioner, which just basically means I'm self-employed. So I studied, I'm from Stiltwoord, a very small town close to Burgersfort. I did my degree in University of Pretoria. From then on, because I was super adventurous, I decided to go to Western Cape. And currently, I'm actually working on going to Ireland to further do my profession there and further study that side. Okay, let's just get this share screen thing on. So I'm just going to use a PowerPoint because I think it's going to make it easier for me to kind of just stick to the timing. Can everyone see this? Hello?
We can see it. Thank you, doctor.
Okay, so yeah, I think if I just go to PowerPoint, it might be actually much better. So, okay, this is at Tygerberg Hospital. It's basically one of the second biggest hospital in South Africa, and definitely the biggest hospital in Cape Town. So firstly, what I'm going to discuss is just the objectives of the PowerPoint and the presentation, just for you guys to understand what Tygerberg Hospital is about, why it's unique, what you guys might have to expect, and how you guys can maximize your learning opportunities, work safely. And of course, the whole purpose of internship is to build confidence. So as mentioned, Tygerberg Hospital is a major tertiary academic hospital. It's affiliated with Stellenbosch in terms of the campus is basically a step next door to the hospital. It is a major Western Cape referral center. And with that said, it has a lot of complex pathology with high volume of trauma and with exceptional specialist support. So with that said, just as we're not as big as Bara, but I feel in terms of Cape Town standards, it's basically the most busiest hospital you can think of. And then with that said, you should expect to be challenged every day. And then further adding, there's a lot of polytrauma, so multi-accidents to gunshots. So our trauma unit is very, very busy, to a point where if you are in ortho, for example, you might work the whole night. Like it's that hectic. We have very advanced medicine and surgery in terms of our theaters, even from neurosurgery, you get to see get exposed to very, very rare procedures, like very subspecialized procedures, which is actually a really nice and very eye-opening. And then we definitely have a very high-risk obstetrics unit, as well as neonatal and pediatric emergencies. Even as an intern, you are going to be obliged to know neonatal life support because I think due to the level of the hospital we are, I think from weight of 700 grams, we actually supposed to start already resuscitating a neonate. So, but the good thing is the hospital is quite well equipped to help you with that. All you have to do is basically learn everything else. And then, of course, organ failure is also a priority, and of course, oncology and transplant care. So, senior support is one of the best things about Tygerberg Hospital. Registrars are always available 24/7. There's frequent consultant teachings. You are very encouraged to actually escalate early. Patient safety is always the priority. So as much as there is, of course, hierarchy, consult, registrar, MO, whatever, but as long as you are trying to make sure the patient is safe, your concerns or your opinion will always be regarded. So in terms of workload, it is a busy casualty. There's large ward rounds, a lot of admissions, a lot of discharge, a lot of paperwork. The overnight calls, I think, are sometimes just gruesome. I don't think there's any department that I can say you're gonna maybe sleep it out or less than the other. So with that said, efficiency actually matters, and in this kind of instance, efficiency is just as important as knowledge. So as much as it is an academic environment, and you have to know everything that you need to know, but you really have to work on being efficient as well, because if you can't use that knowledge, it becomes quite problematic and quite overwhelming. Okay, and then I think procedures wise, as I mentioned, there's so much polytrauma, so much exposure. It's basically the main hub of referrals. And with that said, you get to be the first person, or at least the first line of everything. As much as even if they're students, you are mainly the first line for everything. So you do get the opportunity to do central lines, arterial lines, to put in chest drains, to intubate if you need to. As I mentioned, even neonatal resuscitation, you actually have to even gonna do a course while you're there to actually even make you know how to be confident with that. Ultrasounds. So procedures are always there and very prioritized. With that said, though, the more you ask, it's when the more you will do. So if you don't ask anything, you will never really be given the opportunity to do, but the opportunity is definitely there. And as mentioned, the supervision is top class. So even if you want to ask to do something, there's always going to be someone there to either help you, either assist you, either tell you what to do. So I think it gives you a much easier opportunity to kind of put yourself out there and be, I guess, learn to be confident, so that even maybe after your first few procedures, then the seniors will even trust you enough to be like, okay, no, fine, I've seen you do this before. You can do this alone. If you have an issue, just let me know. So that's procedures. From then on, we have rotational calls. So I think if I had to summarize this, I'll just say that my rotation pulse would be for internal medicine, you need to know your ECGs. There has to be, at least before you even come to this hospital, or even before you go to any other hospital that has been mentioned, you have to kind of know that in this specific department, I want to work on this. In this specific department, I want to work on this, so that it actually is easier for you to learn. Because as everyone said, it's not like you're a student, everyone's gonna follow you, what you study. If you don't study, it's really up to you. But you should probably just walk in with an open mind in telling yourself, okay, this is what I want to know in internal medicine. So my pearls would be simple things like, for medicine, ECG is one of the most simple things that you can focus on and actually get more knowledge on. General surgery, mostly it's trauma. Emergency medicine is mostly just about knowing and learning how to prioritize your patients. And then, of course, pediatrics, it's emergency neonatal. That's one thing that you're going to learn more than anything. You're going to be knowing how to start preterm babies like a pro. Family medicine is the only time in Tygerberg Hospital that I can say you're gonna learn your medical independence. You do it last as one of the last rotations for 6 months. You go to clinics like Delft, Field, where it's quite busy, quite hectic, with a lot of trauma as well. But that's where you kind of, all the things that you've learned throughout the first year, second year, and all the specialist departments, that's where you get to be independent and really be the one on the other end that is referring to Tygerberg Hospital. So it's quite refreshing to see that side of it as well. And then, of course, orthopedics is a very big department there as well. And as I said, as a trauma specialty, you get to be part of the first line in the trauma unit. And as I said, most of the calls you never really get to sleep, but it's really high end, it's really hectic. You see every patient, the registrar is always there. You do everything together. The next morning, you guys actually prep the morning rounds together and present the morning rounds together with your reg. So you are very, very close hand in hand with the seniors, and which really makes you feel the need to step up. And then, of course, it is a typical day-to-day. Sorry, I think there's a bit of a sound outside. I hope you guys can hear me well.
We can still hear you.
Sorry?
Yeah, we can still hear you. You can continue.
Okay. So, with that said, I was coming to the procedure, right? So okay, hand over and typical day. So normally, I think typical days are typical days in most hospitals. The patient comes in, there's a handover, there's a ward round, there's investigations, there's reviews, there's new admissions that come during the day, there's procedures that are done for those new admissions, and after that, there's also making sure that other discharges are done and prioritized. So in terms of each and every department has their own specific way they do things, but I think the most important thing is for you to learn as early as possible when you get to the department, how you're supposed to clock your patient, how they expect you to present, how they expect you to go about your day, so that as soon as you go throughout the months, it gets easier. And you kind of just gel and get in the flow of how things work. So I would always say that in your first week, try to get enough context, enough numbers. Talk to your seniors. Ask them what do they expect from you. so that they can also understand that you are just here to also learn and you want to know what you need to do. And I think it only gets easier. But if you feel like you just need to jump in and whatever, it's just gonna get harder. But try to make sure you know what they expect from you and try to adapt to the system they have. It's gonna be a really quick change no matter which hospital you go to. Every 3 months, it's always gonna feel like a new, like you're in a new environment again. So you're always gonna feel like you don't know anything. So that is normal. That is going to be very normal. But what I can say is your first week, try to get your presentations, your history taking, the format that they expect you to know, the investigations or whatever basic bloods that are most common to that department. Then it just gets much, much easier to do your day-to-day work. Lastly, academic culture. So as I said, it's basically linked with Stellenbosch University. So what I can say is it's easy for you to get a visitor's card, um, so that you can basically use the library in the which something that I did. You get your visitor's card. You can use the library within the university to study. You can get access to some of their sports facilities. Um, what I can say is that they don't really have a gym at the campus. The gym that is closer to the area is a Vision Active at a mall called Paro Center, which is a bit closer. It's also like I think it was around 200 Rand a month. So it's just a simple Vision Active gym, not very fancy, but has everything that you need. Um, in terms of research opportunities, as I said, because it's affiliated with Stellenbosch, you can do like some research courses, which I also did. Um, in terms of journal clubs, I was more into the sporty side of things, so I didn't really get to experience that. But one thing I know is that in terms of academic culture, there's a little bit of everything, and research opportunities are definitely there as well. Um, the next thing, survival tips. So survival tips for me will be definitely, as I said, carry your essential tools. Make sure you have a nice small bag with a pack of scissors, pen, um, small notebook. Make sure when you have your phone, you have your ward apps. You know when you see patients, you put them in your ward apps to kind of see your day to day, see which patients need this. So try to use whatever tools that you can to make your life easier. Specifically with such, most of these hospitals you're gonna go to, all of them are quite big hospitals. So you need to know how to manage your ward and be like take it as a priority and know that even your seniors and your age, even if they sometimes will get lost because they still have to do their own courses, they do their own studies. But if they know that you are handling the ward well, they will actually even give you more opportunity to do more things. And also mentioned before timing. Um, whichever hospital you're gonna go to, at the end of the day, you might still end up leaving at 6 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, and 4, which is supposed to be the normal day, might be that rare day. But if you can try to get your things early, use your apps, monitor whatever ward work you need to do, whoever you work with, work as a team, other things as well. That in terms of the professional nurses and the allied health team, work hand in hand with them. Um, Make sure you respect them. Make sure you also do favors for them so they can do favors for you. Build a really good environment when you start, and everything will always go well. And and then I think those are the ones. Stay hydrated is a very important one. Sometimes internship gets really busy. Stay hydrated, stay healthy. Um, and of course, document well and escalate. So especially at Tygerberg, as I mentioned, you should never feel like escalating will be a problem or, feel a pressure of doing something that you're comfortable with. Um, Always escalate early. And trust me, by the third or fourth time, you would know that, okay, I know how to do this now. So you don't have to start from scratch. So it's always better to be down. You don't know anything. learn everything, even if it's a baby step, learn it so that by the third week, by the second week, you already know everything. And you don't want to leave your rotation by the third month and you feel like I've been just, under my shell. Then you won't be able to really get to do anything. Accommodation and wellness. So there is a doctor's quarters available. It's within the actual hospital as well. It's also like, I'll say maybe a 5-minute walk to the hospital. In terms of the actual rooms, it's a 2-bedroom with a kitchen and a bathroom. However, it's also a very old structure. And I think some of the units are hit and miss. Some of the units, as some interns come in, they refurbish them, they do everything by themselves, they change the floors, put the painting. And if some luck you get one of those rooms, then you're good to go. So I'll probably say if you get placed in Tygerberg and you want to stay at the DQ, maybe try to get the early, try to ask them to be like, you know what, I want a specific key number or I want a room that's better, and try to check out the rooms well in advance so that you can actually get yourself a good 2-bedroom apartment. But as I said, it's really hit and miss. What I can say is that it's really close that you can actually do a call from the DQ. Like you can go sleep at your DQ, rest, they can call you, and then you can get to the hospital within time. At the end of the day, the hospital is not really in like Cape Town CBD. It's in Paro Center, but it's a very well-established town. You have a mall that has a gym already close to it. You can, of course, order your groceries through your 360 apps, order your food, your McDonald's, whatever. So I think even if it's not really in CBD Cape Town, it actually is a big town in itself. And you have everything that you need, which makes it very quite convenient. The price for our DPs is 1,000 rand as well, so it's quite on the cheaper side. I would say for accommodation in Cape Town, I'm not gonna lie to you, I want to be pretty honest. If you wanna have your own accommodation, you are gonna pay a dime. It's basically 10,000 is if you are just, you might even get a 1-bedroom apartment. So of course, if you are in the means of doing that, you're well enough to do that. In general, most of the places are quite safe. So I wouldn't really be like, which place is safe or which one is not. But I think if you want to book a place, have your own apartment or something, you definitely have to pull up around maybe 10,000 rand and upwards for a rental apartment. And then I also mentioned wellness here. Basically, prioritizing your rest and prioritizing your well-being is just something that has to come with everything as well. So it's very important to kind of don't get lost in between. Most of the times, I'm sure most of my colleagues will let you know that as interns, sometimes you even miss lunch. Sometimes, you just work yourself so hard that you don't really get to do the other things that might, give you more energy. And then you end up actually even taking longer to do the work because now you're actually fatigued. So try to prioritize your rest, prioritize your nutrition and your well-being. Lastly, I'll say my final advice: be curious, be humble, be professional, volunteer, read daily, and ask questions. And I'll say with the read daily one, I think it's one of those things where there's so much knowledge in the medical spectrum or health science in general. One thing you know is this: you can never know everything. And I think reading daily, what it helps you with is if you see a topic that you don't know, you just go through it, watch, even if you don't actually open a textbook, just watch a YouTube video about something you saw. It'll take you, I don't know, like it'll put you on another level when at some point you deal with the case or you see the case again. Because as I said, it's still an academic hospital. There's still consultant rounds and ward rounds. And when you just see a patient, see your ward patients before you sleep, you watch a few videos about the specific conditions. And then when you do your presentations in the morning, even if some of them you don't plan them, but at least you already have some sort of knowledge. You know what to say or how to approach it and what you can do next time. And even for you, when you wake up the next morning or you go to your morning rounds, you know what to add for extra tests, what to do to defend the diagnosis. But as I said, read daily, but not really to read daily just to impress your consultants or your ward rounds, but for yourself to build yourself. Because internship, those 2 years are really meant for you to just learn and get the confidence you need to be a doctor. And I think that outweighs everything. So you do it for yourself. So now this is the final of my PowerPoint. I hope I wasn't too long. Then this is just a bit of a poster with kind of everything that I tried to discuss that is summarized. That's that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ngele. And we would really like that intern 101 at Tygerberg Hospital. So we'll definitely arrange to have that accessible final years. There is one question that came up, and it's about the DQs. So Catherine was asking, is the 2-bedroom DQ at Tygerberg shared with another intern, or is it private?
So no, the 2-bedroom is not shared with any interns. You usually have a 2-bedroom apartment for yourself. As I said, it's actually quite decent space. The other room can be your lounge room, have your TV. The other room can be your main bedroom. But as I mentioned, it's still old. Like it's still old, it's been a bit clunky. But if you endorse a room that is from a previous intern that actually took care of it, then you are in good hands. If not, it means you might have to kind of do the work, like maybe put your own paintings, restructure the floor, and all that. But you actually get the 2-bedroom apartment for your own self, yeah.
Okay, all right. And I think that was the only. I think that was the only question for Tygerberg. Oh, and one question. Apparently, Tygerberg gives Barra vibes. Is this true, or are you guys overworked? That's the last question.
So to be honest, I think for as I think I mentioned that on the actual PowerPoint, saying that as much as we're the second biggest hospital in South Africa, right? But in terms of Gauteng, Barra being the Gauteng hospital, Tygerberg is basically the Barra of Western Cape. So that's just because it comes with the fact that it is the biggest hospital there. I don't think we probably have half the beds capacity of Barra, so I can't say Barra is the biggest hospital in Africa, so that's a different standard. But still, in terms of what is expected at the hospital, the workload, the patient load, and the fact that when someone comes to Tygerberg Hospital, there's no more further referral. It's kind of like if you're not getting help here, you can't get help anywhere. So I think because of that kind of pressure, it gives Barra vibes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rangele. And thank you so much to everybody that spoke today, and those that shared their insights and those that asked questions. We really do appreciate it. The recording will be made available and accessible to everyone, so you can also replay this at your own time also. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. We will keep communicating via the group and all other channels, including our social media channels. Thank you so much, everybody. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.